is also new.
It's not new. I realize that nothing we've been doing is new. We haven't been tapping into new areas of the brain. We've just been awakening the most ancient. This technology is simply a route to powers that conjurers and alchemists used centuries ago.
We're seeing an exponential growth in our machines and innovations as technology surpasses and exceeds our limitations. Implications could be serious. In many past and present futurists have been warning us for years about the consequences. Massive repercussions. We see the evidence, dependence on our internet and phones and games and televisions, losing independence. As we immerse ourselves in working all our fingers to the bones for corporations, we give them back our paychecks for the latest and the greatest plastic upgrades, name brand products and replacements, and build their databases. Investing hours of our own free time uploading information used against us to target us with market advertising toward our interests. Collecting information used to monitor our senses, correcting anyone who won't comply or be connected. How long before a mandatory microchips injected? It's the age-old lie, the promise of utopia, the carrot on the stick, the empty cornucopia. Technological hive mind dystopia. Or will it rise is a time of robophobia? It's the age-old lie, the promise of utopia, the carrot on the stick, the empty cornucopia. Technological hive mind dystopia. Or will it rise is a time of robophobia? It's an emerging type insurgence, converging and merging and churning, slowly bursting to the surface. It's concerning every person and confirming every warning. The disturbing thought we're working toward a single mind that's merging and converting us to downloadable versions of ourselves inside a full immersion, universal simulated virtual reality, where every living earthling's neural pathways are inspected mandatorily and connected using voice to skull telepathy, absorbing data fingerprints to play us back like instruments, manipulating us just like we're puppets of ventriloquists, remote controlling human beings like Ouija boards, coursing through the veins of circuit boards, record the sound of every vocal cord, moving exponentially towards a singularity. Eventually we won't distinguish magic from technology, and robots will unplug from electricity, no longer using batteries but powered like a golem using alchemy. It's the age-old lie, the promise of utopia, the carrot on the stick, the empty cornucopia. Technological hive mind dystopia. Or will it rise is a time of robophobia? It's the age-old lie, the promise of utopia, the carrot on the stick, the empty cornucopia. Technological hive mind dystopia. Or will it rise is a time of robophobia? Slowly manipulate genetically our DNA collectively, infecting every living organism and directing every intersecting thought and every memory and vision, inspecting our opinions and collecting our decisions. A digital technocracy emerging as philosophy, inserting thought police patrols and mind control technology, removing private property, enforcing thought bureaucracy, reducing every freedom and pursuit of life and liberty, consistently expanding all their terms and their conditions with minimum requirements and maximum restrictions, creating unknown problems to offer fake solutions, to complicate the system till there's nothing but confusion, depicting anyone who won't conform as unacceptable, demanding everyone to all agree and not be skeptical, eventually connecting every mind from every nation, fulfilling prophecies from Genesis to Revelation. It's the age-old lie, the promise of utopia, the carrot on the stick, the empty cornucopia. Technological hive mind dystopia. Or will it rise is a time of robophobia?
Even with all these new abilities, there are dangers.
Human race lost that knowledge, and now I'm reclaiming it through virtual reality.
You're moving too fast.
Okay, welcome. It's Friday, and it's time for what normally would be the Solomon Report, but tonight it's not exactly the Solomon Report because we are going to be talking about utopia and dystopia, and I'm going to tell you right now, guys, the glitching or the weirdness that's been going on with me trying to go live, that's interesting new phenomenon since, as NPC and I were just talking, but welcome NPC, I'll go on about this, but I'll say hello and welcome to you first.
Howdy out there, you coffee cats. Hope you're drinking the Java.
I'm having not Java, but anyway, what happened recently, and I'll repeat to NPC a little bit, is I've been getting age restrictions on multiple videos just in the last few days, and also I got my Patreon was flagged for being a QAnon supporter, and not only was my Patreon flagged, but one of my patrons, PayPal, was flagged for donating to me on my flagged QAnon supporting Patreon. So just now, when I tried to go live, it didn't go live. And this happened earlier when I did a raffle, and I was very confused. So I had to go in. So while normally I can just go live from OBS, I had to go into the studio on YouTube just to go live just now. It wasn't going live. And I was like, why is there 0 viewers? So anyway, now there's 8. Hooray. We've got a party.
Do you think that maybe is there some like limited state where you have your features pruned back or something because you took a hit or something recently because of that? I'm just throwing ideas out there because I don't know anything about content creating in that regard.
I think it's just more ways to put hiccups into what we're doing.
Just like shadow banning in a sense.
Well, you know,
like unofficial tomfoolery.
Right, to put age restrictions on multiple videos, and some of them are so old they were still when I was in my parents' basement. You know, so I'm like, what difference does that make? And then even Paul Romano from Pockets of the Future got a strike to his channel for an old video. And what they're saying, what the point he makes that's good is they have these new terms of service and these new community guidelines that weren't in place back then, and yet now that they're in place for videos that were made before those were in place are getting strikes or age restrictions according to mine. And now I'm grateful that my channel is still up, which is kind of sad to say in a time like this that I should be grateful for that, but I am, because multiple channels have lost not only their main channels but their backups too. So, but it certainly is putting on even more of a strain. Adding these age restrictions, it has to be doing something to shadow ban more.
Well, I mean, you know, I know it's got to be aggravating, but it's also a badge of honor. I mean, you know, rage against the machine, fight the man, Aaron. I mean, it's almost like, well, I've been to the Slammer a couple times, you know. It's like you got some street cred. You've been to YouTube jail or whatever. I mean, if you were just doing stupid stuff that didn't matter, they wouldn't be bothering you, you know. So they're only going to bother people that are telling the truth and actually, you know, deprogramming minds as opposed to programming the minds. So I kind of see it as a good thing. I mean, take a screenshot. I've been taking screenshots of all the Instagram bans. Like every time they ban a post, I take a screenshot. What they're doing is on that platform is some random person can just report your story or post or what. See, I'm actually just getting nailed in stories for that. Other people's posts I'm sharing, and then they're striking those down too. So I don't really know why. I mean, obviously we know why, but it's went across all the platforms, I think. And they've been bombing Discord servers too, by the way. Yeah,
I've heard about that. Do you think I should read that email I got from Patreon? Because it's kind of interesting.
Absolutely, you should.
So when I was kicked off PayPal at least a year ago or more, I recorded the phone conversation and I put it up on a YouTube video. So if anyone's interested in how that conversation went, that is still up as far as I know. If they've taken it down, they didn't tell me. They usually tell you if they take something down. So anyway, this time it's a letter from Patreon, and it says, "Hello, my name is Jeffrey, and I'm on the trust and safety team here at Patreon. I'm writing you to let you know that your account is in violation of our community guidelines. Following our policy update today concerning QAnon accounts, Patreon can no longer support accounts that engage in spreading QAnon supporting disinformation." They're assuming I'm spreading any disinformation. "While we support creative projects that cover controversial topics, we don't allow creators to participate in disinformation campaigns that incite violence and harm others." I bet Antifa's got plenty of Patreons. "Because some of your content falls within this realm, we'll need you to make edits to your page to bring it back within guidelines. Please review and remove any and all content that promotes QAnon disinformation. Additionally, since our guidelines extend to any projects that you fund via Patreon, this means that content anywhere else online is subject to our guidelines. If you have any other questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out," which I did. And I said, I do not support QAnon. In fact, I warn people not to be a part of it. So this is crap and you know it. I see lawsuits coming. Their response was, "Hello, thank you for your response and for this clarification. I apologize for the misunderstanding. It looks like we had noticed an older post, which caused us to reach out to you. I have removed the community guidelines notification banner from your page." So I took down anything that was QAnon related. That I had a post from 2018 that did have a hashtag of QAnon. However, it's not. It was hardly disinformation. It was a meme. But anyway, there it is.
Well, I mean, I understand you can't obviously take a firm stance with it right now, but I personally see the whole thing largely as a positive. The movement isn't really owned by any one person, and I think that's why they find it so threatening, is because this is how people are getting their news now, is by one another, And sure, maybe there's some issues from time to time with, quote unquote fake news, but we know very well that CNN and several of these other outfits, I mean, they regurgitate and perpetuate false narratives. And, you could go to their YouTube page right now, and I guarantee you they don't have any issues whatsoever. And, look at Megyn Kelly. She had Alephantis on, and, hey, that's cool. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so we're in this upside down world here, so like I said, low key, take it as a compliment, but at the same time, it interferes with your livelihood and stuff, and that's not cool, and really when it boils down to it, this fella probably has never even changed a tire in his life, and you know what I mean? And I don't know, it just gets to me. But, I mean, we know the agenda. It's going to get so much worse because it says in the Bible that they'll hate you just for even believing in Christ. So when rubber meets the road, I mean, it's just, this is the first thing to take a hit. At some point that seed's just going to keep getting to a point where, well, you promote Christianity. Well, we can't have you having a Patreon. I mean, it's just,
that'll happen.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Again,
it's always like an old man into a hot bath. It starts with one thing.
I'm not shocked about it, but can you imagine if, like, that, Paul Romano talks about it, and I mentioned him again because he talks about it more, about how this is how he earns his income. That is his job. And so to get strikes or to get demonetized would be really hurtful to him. But me, not so much, right? Like, a lot of my followers don't follow me anymore because they came from big channels like Red Pill 78 or SGT Report from when I was on those channels. And so they're not going to appreciate, they're going to see that I definitely am not pro QAnon at all anymore. And I even call into question some of those channels like And We Know and at Red Pill 78 and what their true agenda is, and warn people, So, but I can't imagine. This is why I was going to say. I told you earlier. I said I see that a lot of people are getting shut down, and the first thing they do is ask for money.
Yeah, I've been noticing. Well, and then here's the thing. I do want to remind people, the whole QAnon thing did begin with Cicada, and they warned us about grifters, which are people that make money on a thing. Or is that the definition? Like somebody that makes money on something in the back of something like that.
Let's find out for sure.
That was the term they used, I think. And so, in other words, people claiming to
a con man, someone who pulls confidence games, a person who swindles you by means of deception or fraud. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, so having known where it originated, then you got these people claiming to be it and all this. It was just comical to the people that were in the know because we knew better, So for a long time, they were warning others not to do this, but of course they weren't at the top of these companies. It wasn't the censorship necessarily they were saying was going to come. It was just the humiliation factor. I mean, look at Austin Steinbart, for instance. That's a really good example. But, really at its core, though, they're attacking truth and they're attacking grassroots movement in a sense. If you really step back and look at this from a broader perspective, you're going to notice that what they're really trying to do is they're trying to make the connection. You hear Whitney Webb talk about this on the last Vagabond report with Ryan. She was discussing how right now they're trying to make the connection between Iran and white supremacists, and then naturally that connects to Trump and then QAnon. You see what I mean? So really, what this is actually flack from that kind of stuff right there, that type of censorship. So, pretty much being patriotic at this point is going to be considered white supremacist, or just researching Pizzagate or any, truth movement. You're just going to be considered this. And if you remember, they set the stage a long time ago with this. They planted the seeds because there was that dude that showed up at the pie place, and one errant round happened to go into the place and hit the hard drive.
Yeah.
Incidentally. So, they've already set the stage with this kind of thing in the past and being like, oh, well, they're at it again, guys. We better censor them and get on top of this while we can. So, obviously we know the truth and we know that that's not the case, but they call everybody a Nazi or whatever. It's just a broad brush to paint everybody with. So, for that matter, I think we could just stop using the words. That's not going to stop the truth. I mean, we can still just not use QAnon, like you were saying, and not support that. Because, when you say you're a part of that, then you are a part of it. And then if there are misinformation people in it, because no doubt there's got to be some tools hanging out in those groups, we all know it came from the CIA in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, I honestly wouldn't even doubt if the whole bit was to just infiltrate all these groups and then bring them down with censorship. You see, that would be a very smart thing to do if you were just controlling both sides,
Yep.
Because then you infect the truth community and turn them all against each other. And, because what it is, the networks are upset that they're not getting ratings.
Right.
CNN's upset that you're not letting them program your mind, and instead you're deprogramming your mind and learning. And that's what they don't like. So, sorry to be on the soapbox, but this is something that goes back for several years, and it's really just culminating into this because of the election, I think. But I digress.
Yeah, so let's move on to what you want to share. Don't forget to share your screen, and when you can, remember, you can share links if you have them. But what we are going to talk about on and off is the show Utopia, and let's compare that to the real world and what we're seeing going on today. And the reason I titled it what I did, which was The-Dystopian-Fear, The-Utopian-Lie, is because we'll find out that utopia is really not what they say it is.
Oh, yes. The dystopia that can result from trying to achieve a utopia, indeed. I'm going to go ahead and drop this link here, and then if you want to pin that to the top, that way if anybody comes in, they'll at least know what we're kind of talking about. Now, it's just a wiki article. There's nothing really special about it. However, it does detail the episodes at the bottom and has the actors and actresses and things of that nature. I'm going to try sharing the screen.
Great.
And
in 3, 2.
Oh man, don't add a countdown.
I'm joking.
That makes it stressful. All right. Here, I think I got it.
Not really doing that to you. I wasn't even on your screen yet, but now I am.
All right, cool. Can you folks out there see it?
Yeah. Looks like they can see it.
At one point, I'm going to jump into the Discord, but after we've covered it a little bit, so you guys know what we're talking about. And then at one point, I might jump back into the Discord because somebody was sharing some ideas in there that I just wanted to throw out there, Anyway, this show is known as Utopia, and this is a 2020 TV series. Now, mind you, there's a 2013 British original, and so I'll just read this little excerpt here. Utopia is a British black comedy conspiracy thriller drama television series that was broadcast on Channel 4 from 15th of January 2013 to the 12th of August 2014. The show was written by Dennis Kelly and starred Fiona
Shaughnessy.
Thank you. Adil Akhtar, Paul Higgins, Nathan Stewart, Jarrett, etc. So let me actually, since this is so easy to do, this is the British one, guys. Now, I haven't watched the British one, and I have tried a little bit, and I just can't appreciate British stuff. But I mean, like, what I noticed right off the bat, so to speak, was the English, or the American version rather. It was very much in your face. You know, I had a lot of difficulty just telling like who was even a good guy, bad guy. In the British one, they kind of all act silly almost, to me, in a sense. So if you can get through that, you might get something more out of it. I did dip into it a little bit and got a couple of really nice gems, but I got them off YouTube. So I'll share those here at the end. And that's
what I did too. I just went through YouTube cheats basically with the British version. And
so I'll share a little bit on Janice from the British, because the American one does not talk about Janice at all.
Right.
So we'll discuss that a little bit at the end. But anyway, so let me read a little bit about the TV show so you guys kind of understand what we're talking about. Now we're going to be talking about the American version again. And before we jump into the British, I'll tell you, but we won't be doing that but a couple times. Utopia is an American science fiction drama television series adapted by Gillian Flynn from 2013, British original. It was released on September 25th, 2020 on streaming device Prime Video. Utopia was ordered direct to series on April 19th, 2018 with an order of 9 episodes. It had originally been set up at HBO with David Fichtner to direct, but was never produced after a financial dispute. On April 19th, Utopia was ordered to series by Amazon, and then July 23rd, Comic Con at home. Now that is interesting. I didn't notice that the first time I was reading this.
The first teaser part?
Yeah, the first teaser for this series was released and was confirmed to be released in the fourth quarter of 2020. On August 6, 2020, at the TCA virtual panel, showrunner Gillian Flynn announced that there would be less violence than the British original. Less violence than the British? I can't imagine more violence than the one in the American version.
Yeah, well, just add a little bit more blood and splatter, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's another thing, folks. One reason I wanted to kind of cover this, I'm not encouraging you to watch this. This is an incredibly violent, it could even very well trigger some people. I mean, there's elements of like child abuse and all sorts of crazy stuff in this. So I would just caution you, if you like dark stuff, then okay. But if you're sensitive to that, this show is kind of telling you maybe we're picking through the good parts and giving them to you so you don't have to sift through it. But
plus we're going to be given spoilers for that reason, and I've said this before when we were talking about the last couple movies, that we're not telling people to go watch it and tell us what they think necessarily. We're telling you everything that is in the show as far as we know, so you don't have to watch it.
Yeah. Well, it's just we're not really supposed to see violence and stuff. It really bothers me to see stuff like that, and just want to shield people
it's
from it.
traumatic for a reason.
So I never did look at this link, but just because I missed it the first time, if anybody has a moment and they can, if anything jumps out at them about this, because we know that the first portion of this show actually takes place at, Fringe Con is what they called it, I think. And it was just this Comic-Con place where everybody was getting together. And so this gang of, there's a real big reason, by the way, why I wanted to cover this, because the gang that's together with this comic book fandom, it turns out the comic book itself is actually a puzzle. And, the author of the puzzle intended, well, maybe not intended, but they were conveying some truths that they were aware of. And what it was, these comic book pages were actually conveying the plans of the elite and how they were going to release viruses one after the other, etc. And the folks that were on this little team, internet nerds, I guess you could call them, they were all kind of in the arena of, they knew what was really going on, and they were all doing their part to solve different parts of it. And, you know, if you are familiar with Cicada and QAnon and stuff like that, you really can't help but like feel like them when you're watching this, because it's like, oh my, you know. And we'll get to that, because just a little bit of a teaser here. Although I did share this in the Discord, this is a cicada clue from like 2016, 2017, and this is a genome line.
Yeah, clearly.
And we're going to talk about what that is. This is the CCR532 susceptibility gene for SARS-CoV-2. So we didn't even know what it was at the time, but they had already told us about this, and
When
it
you
just
say
wasn't
that
relevant at the time.
when you say that they told us, the cicada group told us, where did they tell us that? Where did you find that?
It was a website called Sevens Exposed, and it's no longer up. It was only up until 2019. So for about 2 or 3 years, the domains were all up, and there was several different links. There was Sevens Exposed was the original. Well, actually, the original was a prime factorization that was a really long number. It was like 1773113131113 or something like that. And that site stayed up for a long time too. And then they would have all of these, file directories coming out from the base one, going out into all these different directions. But it would, depending on what you solved, everybody would be taking different paths on these websites, and people were sharing and stuff like that. And at one point, and they would just routinely update the site, and sometimes just update, and different parts of the sites would update too. So depending on where you were at in the puzzle, like, you may miss clues entirely just because you weren't to a certain point quickly enough or something like that. Well, anyway, thank goodness for Discord. So we were able to diligently gather and collect all these clues and put them all together and form more or less a narrative. That's how we're able to tell you definitively right now that, hey, Q was begat by Cicada, because we actually have clues from the Cicada puzzle before QAnon ever came out that are titled Q.MP3, Q2.jpg, Q1, Q.wave, etc. So we knew about that too, but then it wasn't, but maybe a couple months after they released QAnon out into the wild, as they said, it got taken over by whomever, and that's when they started warning about the grifters and stuff. So before all that happened, they had dropped a series of clues, and this was one of them. And there was another one for Hodgkin's
lymphoma.
No, it was like Candida.
Oh.
Hogston Candida or something.
Okay.
I think it's like yeast or something, or bacteria.
Well, Candida is a yeast, or yeah.
So I got to do a little more research on that and figure out what the relevancy is, because we didn't even realize what this was. And like, I just stumbled over it last week. I was going back through clues, and I was like, oh, well, this is now really relevant.
And so your Discord channel collects
Pardon?
Your Discord channel collects these cues and these clues. Oh, these cues.
Yeah.
Okay. The egregore one. Okay. Are you willing to share that?
Yeah, sure. If you give me a second. There's we follow like conspiracy stuff, and
this is not a channel for shooting the breeze, guys. This is a pretty serious channel, so if you're going to go in there, take it seriously, please.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, we're not too serious.
Oh, well, okay, that was not the impression I got.
Oh, well, yeah, there's moderators in there.
There's mods that would like you. There are mods that would like you to take it seriously, and that's I'm saying that disrespectfully. I'm saying, oh my gosh, can I speak right? I'm saying that respectfully, not disrespectfully, because it is your channel, and I want people to be respectful as all. So come in there with a serious mindset. That's all.
Conspiracy. Cicada, conspiracy, stuff like that. If you want to join that server, just ask for the Sophia role when you enter, and then you can see the server content. Anyway, let me get back to where I was. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. So anyway, this particular thing is something we'll come back to a little bit later, and I'll read about that. Before we get, I think I might have missed something here. Okay, well, there really isn't much here. So it lists the cast, and as you notice, John Cusack's like one of the most well-known people in this, which he kind of a weird fella, honestly. I don't know how I feel about him, but anyway, that's the only real big name you see in this. So that said, here's 8 episodes. Life begins, just a fanboy, Tuesday's child. Man, that's the 3rd time today I've heard Tuesday's child. Whew. There's a song by Pigface called 10 Ground and Down. They talk about Tuesday's child, and then there's another song by Sleigh Bells talking about Tuesday. Tuesday's ruled by Mars, by the way. So I don't know what that means, but I need to make a note. Hold on. All right. Not slow, not bad. Order 2472. Respect your purpose. Talking hurts. Stay alive. Jessica Hyde. Okay, the person that starred in this, they call her Jessica Hyde, but she doesn't even know that's her name, really. So the whole show, really, they're just trying to track down Utopia, which is the comic. And the only reason they want that is because they know Jessica wants it. Well, she doesn't even know really what it is. She's trying to figure out what it is, just like all these other nerds. So whenever they run into her at the Comic-Con, that's how they kind of join forces. But she's not a very nice person either, because she's been through a lot of trauma.
Very unlikable.
Yeah, she's a criminal, really. But she's very strong and independent and self-sufficient. I mean, you can kind of see a lot of strength in her, too. And then there's moments where she has a lot of weakness, where, she crawls under a sink and starts crying when she thinks her dad's dying. So you can see, where she regresses a lot of times and goes back to, like, as a child. She's a child in an adult's body. But interestingly, she happens to have, like, lightning fast reflexes, and she's, like, hyper intelligent. And she's almost like a superhero. So, like, you're watching this, you're like, can she be hurt? It's like they made her seem superhuman. Well, it turns out you learn that she is. And because, and I did forget to get a slide of, like, the twins. But there's always a reoccurrence of twins throughout the show. Now, I don't know if this is in the British version or not. But we never see that she has a twin, although the guy that's looking for her as like a henchman, he tells her that they're like brother and sister, basically. So maybe, they don't look anything alike like the other twins do, but they could have been fraternal twins, not identical twins. So that's entirely possible. We might find out in the next season. However, and just before we get into the Bible verses there, sorry, I know these are going to seem like, never mind. I'll just go back to the beginning, because without explaining any of that,
the images will be
weird.
odd. I was going to say really quickly, keep your thought for just a second. I was going to say really quickly, too, I wanted to try to go through the soundtrack, because there was a song that had lyrics that were so appropriate. Well, no. I didn't have time. But it'll be something to do in the future, possibly, is to look at the soundtrack. Now, from what I understand, the soundtrack was done by a particular person. I don't know if there's a lot of regular songs on it or not, which I was surprised, because I remember hearing a song and I was like, wait, the soundtrack was done by... Yeah, there's hard to find a lot of information on this show also. So the soundtrack I did find, but it wasn't a good breakdown, and I have not seen anybody else do a breakdown of this show yet. Could not find one. So we're going we got first dibs on this. So
and I'm telling you, there's a lot in it, but it does focus on like a narrow, like in terms of conspiracies, though, like this is really just about biological vectors and viruses and stuff like that. They didn't really take it beyond that. So it's kind of interesting to see that the story is very much an apocalyptic scenario. However, it is a narrow vein, and I believe in more of a multi-pronged apocalypse. But anyway, we'll continue.
Yeah, so
here.
continue. Sorry about that. You were going to go to the verses.
So let's give them this here. Sorry, I'm gonna get rolling here, guys. Sorry it took me so long to kind of get into the groove. This is like
It's also
she
me.
said. This is
I'm
not a typical show today.
Yeah. I have partly to do with that too, because I was doing announcements and things like that. So and I'm interrupting because I have something to say. Because
I actually was at work earlier and I didn't have, like, if I had been at home all day, I would have been able to prepare better anyway. So this particular link is going to take you to, let's see, 5 verses out of Revelation that talk specifically about the vials, and there's a reason for that. We get to see these vials in Utopia also, and I'll show you that in a moment. So let's start with Revelation 5:8. And I don't know what version this is, so just bear with me.
That's okay.
And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. Now remember, what was it, a week or two ago, we were talking about the prayer bowls.
Mm-hmm. That was last Friday.
So,
I think.
So, these are vials in contrast to maybe a bowl. And I'm not entirely certain what the difference might be. But vial doesn't sound good, retributive perhaps. Revelation 15:7, and one of the 4 beasts gave unto 7 angels 7 golden vials full of wrath of God. Well, nice, yeah. Who liveth forever and ever. So, okay, so yes, indeed, the vials seem to be analogous with destruction. 16:1, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. Yes, indeed. Revelation 17:1, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked to me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. That's just like Revelation 8, or excuse me, Isaiah 13 is also the destruction of Babylon. I like how Isaiah weaves in and out of Revelation, just like Daniel kind of does. And then let's go with Revelation 21:9, and there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues, and talked with me, saying, come hither, and I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. So, wow. So this is right before the marriage supper of the Lamb, which I was looking for that clip. I think I did, in fact, share it in the Discord, but I couldn't find it quickly enough. But I took a short clip of the feast they were having. At one point, they're having a feast. So if I could actually
in the show.
Yeah, I know where it's at, but I took a really short clip. Before I got off the topic, though, I wanted to show, and I'm sorry for the image. I really didn't want to even show this, but I needed to show that these are the vials, and there's how many here? 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, 5.
And some Baphomet-looking characters, and an alien-looking guy.
Mind you, this is what, a pig, a boar,
Yeah.
right? This one looks avian, like a bird.
Right.
This one's more like an ox or bull. I honestly can't tell what that is. And then this is a deer, which, by the way, we see the stag often in these shows.
Could be chimeras too, or something. Looks like a chimera character.
This poor creature here is the chimera, because if you note, all of these symbols on the vials are on her. And what you'll learn is, as you watch the show, she doesn't even know that she has these on her back. They're experimenting on her, like there's a basement underneath her room, and they will knock her out when she was a child, and then take her downstairs and experiment on her.
And this would be Jessica Hyde. Yes.
So her hide is, in fact, the blueprint for the apocalypse, the death of everybody. So they basically turned her into a monster, and she finds out through solving Utopia with this gang of nerds she figures out what she is, and she finds out that she's like both, but quite possibly what they could make a vaccine with, I'm sure too, but like she is just a cauldron of venom, essentially. So anyway, after having read the verses there about the vials,
venom makes me think of like the Venom movie.
Well, and I use that word on purpose because the word we this pouring out of the vials and such, this venomous thing, the venom of God is Samael, the left hand of God. And some accounts say that he's an evil angel, some say he's not, that he's just there to serve a purpose, and that's to destroy things. And so some people equate him with Abaddon as well. And if whether or not that's true doesn't really matter, but the fact of the matter is that these destructive things here, as we read right here, it's saying glory to the most, what was it? Yeah, the wrath of God who liveth forever and ever. I mean, this is a righteous judgment that they're extolling here. And so, are these angels evil because they're destroying everything? Well, no, because the righteous have been saved already, and that's what they're talking about, the Lamb's wife. This is the bride, and the rapture, and all that stuff comes together in this. And when it's talking about the judgment of the whore that sitteth upon many waters, I mean, that's the whole point. The parable of the wise and foolish virgins with the oil. Maybe we've talked about in the past about the arrival of the Galilean wedding was a twinkle of an eye. We're talking about that kind of thing here with the marriage feast. So if we go to, it's not quite there.
And I guess just sorry if we didn't warn necessarily of the imagery, but it's not going to get better from here. So if any of these images are bothering you, just listen and don't watch, or maybe tune out.
I don't think that was probably, honestly, that was. I mean, I didn't
there's
want
some
to
pretty
share
creepy
that
ones,
one.
but I think they're all kind of
the
creepy.
I think that was the worst.
Okay, that one's the worst, but they don't really get much better. How about that?
I omitted the ones that were more graphic. Like there's one where Jessica has gutted a rabbit and is proudly displaying its innards. I omitted that one.
That's interesting. You're not going to show that because that was like the cover. That's the cover.
Yeah, exactly.
If you compare, but you got to compare the two covers. Well, you don't got to, but if you compare the two covers of Dystopia and Utopia, it's kind of interesting. But okay.
But yeah, I didn't have the other one to. Maybe I would have. You might have made more of an apparent comparison if I had seen both at the same time.
I thought I did that for you.
I did the best I could.
I thought I did it for you, but I must have just thought I did it and didn't do it.
You may have, actually. I had to source these tabs from like 2 or 3 different spots before the show. Anyway, I only missed a couple things. One of them was that I took a 20-second clip of the scene here. They actually go over this table pretty slowly. And so I got to thinking, I was like, they'd probably love to copyright strike us for something like that anyway. So it's probably for the best that I've forgot it. Right. So I can tell you, though, I don't know which episode this is exactly. It's going to be the one where it's a little bit later.
Probably Tuesday's Child.
Yeah. Whoa, man. Sorry. That just... Every time I hear that now, it's like hits me. So, all right. So basically, if that's what it is, Mars is the son of, what is it? I think he's son of Zeus. Isn't that correct?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, he's the god of war. Yeah, Zeus. I don't remember who his mother is, but Zeus ends up having Ares, Mars, and then also Athena. Both, one's a god of war and one's the goddess of war. Athena's the goddess of defense, whereas Mars is the goddess of, or god of offense. So Tuesday's Child is an offensive kind of take, I think. Anyway, it would represent Mars. So if we look here at this, aside from the obvious yellow symbolism here, which to me is alchemical in nature, But when we go to this table, however, they pan over it. And so, well, what are they doing? Okay, well, these two girls,
They're
which I think-
twins.
yeah, they're twins. This is the only twin thing I got. And they're never joined in their hair like this in the show. But there are always these twins, and a lot of times they have red hair. You'll notice. But
Or
what
blonde.
they do is they raise these children in like crates. I think I got that. Yeah. See, they got like holes and stuff in these crates, and they give them like candy and food and stuff.
Raisins.
Yeah, they're just feed them very sparingly and just treat them like they're not human and not like toys or something. It's really bizarre. And so what they achieve here is some high degree of social conditioning, and you'll see this exhibited throughout the show where Dr. Christie, I think, the Cusack character, he'll be able to just mold these people like putty in his hands because they've like so severely manipulated them.
Can I
growing
remind
up.
you, if you might have been about to say this, so my apologies, but what he does is he gives them a purpose, a
Oh,
very
yeah.
specific purpose, and that is so important that that is what they only understand and believe, that they actually have a purpose, so they feel special in that way. And he makes them a daily repeat what that is, and I think we'll find out that his children are probably not his physiological. Obviously, the black children are not his, but I think his son is certainly some kind of creation. But anyway, go on.
You talking about Arby?
No, his son that looks like Don. No, he looks like not Don Jr. The other one, the creepy one, the Jew.
Oh, Kushner?
Yeah, that's who he looks like. His son.
I didn't realize that was his son.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that's why the jealousy is always there, because like he's like the proud fairy of the bunch. He's,
Yeah, Arby's not his son. Arby's just another created one of these children in the box. Which I think his son might be too, but he's, for whatever reason, he's brought in that boy into his home and raised him to be like a predecessor to him. He's the one that always follows him around. And he really looks like.
Well, that's his right hand.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
Jared
by the way,
Kushner.
before I forget, because what he does is kill people. But if you notice,
Arby does.
yeah. Well, it's yeah. And what you notice is he always shoots them where?
In the
Because
forehead.
you might have noticed this. Yeah, in the pineal gland. So you notice like almost never do you see him shoot somebody anywhere other than in that one spot. So I personally, yes, it's execution style, right? But at the same time, it's like, I think they're trying to get you to pay attention to that area of the head. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Because, we've talked about before, what does plague mean, right? You mentioned something about plague
wound.
the other day.
Right.
Yeah, a head wound, right? So I think that part of that head wound is not having that ability to see past like right and left or whatever, it's being locked in one of these pre-programmed chambers of your mind or something like that. So in a way, I personally found it symbolic, particularly because of what we talked about in the past with the virus. But anyway, I keep digressing.
Can you go back to the image you were on, please, for just a moment?
This one?
Yeah. There's like a fairy godmother almost looking thing up there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and they're trying to find her. I can't quite make that out. What's that say? The greatest creation.
Hide the greatest creation? I don't know. Hide the greatest creation? What's that say? I can't tell.
Hide his greatest creation. They hid the greatest creation into her. She is Jessica Hyde. They hid the plagues in her. She is the vial. Oh my. Yeah, that's what it is. She's basically incubating the plagues, I think is what it is. Because right before she shows back up to the farm or whatever you want to call it, she actually comes down with the flu.
Yep.
That, man, it's so easy to get ahead of yourself.
Yeah,
talking
sorry.
about this.
Yeah, go ahead and go back. I apologize.
So, well, I will just say, okay, so the
And
first
see that
virus.
wait, see the butterfly on that first box? Monarch mind control.
Oh, yeah. I did notice that, but I didn't think about what it could mean.
Monarch mind control.
Anyway, let me get back to. All right, so here's one of the panels from the comic. Now, this is more like a meningitis, encephalitis, Zika kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I don't have to really do the thinking for you here. That's pretty obvious.
Well, it also made me think of Gates's what the mosquitoes he was going to unleash in Florida or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, when we do that in nature, we do that to thin out a population. Yeah. So, like, what is he trying to thin out? Tell me those are biting. I mean, what are they? You know what I mean? Humans, apparently. That's what they're. So they're just treating us like they would deer or anything else.
Yeah.
So I guess these mosquitoes are carrying bombs.
Little death bombs.
And yeah, so anyway, you see there's a girl in the show that I guess if you get infected with one of these viruses, you end up with a mark on your body. I'm not sure exactly how that happens, but there's a girl that she's got a mark behind her ear, and she's like always having seizures and stuff. So
yeah. Oh, that reminds me. They try to make it sound like it's genetic too. They fake genetic. That's crazy. They try to
go
say
ahead and interrupt because I don't know.
Sorry. So her Diels virus, DIELS.
Oh, that's it.
They make her think it's genetic, that she got it from her father, but they're uncovering that they fake these things as being genetic, that they're not. They're given in some fashion.
That's why it's behind her ear. She didn't even know she had the mark. That's pretty interesting. Well then, she's very obsessed with the puzzle because she's hoping that the next and that the only reason they're at the Comic-Con is because some dude passed away. They inherited the house. They came in and were going through all the stuff.
When he says he's talking about some couple that really doesn't matter. They had a uncle or something that passed away. They inherited the house and they found the comic and they decided to sell it at the Comic-Con type of scenario, and people wanted a lot of people wanted it.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll try to have a conversation with you to explain that kind of thing. I'm not doing a very good job of that.
Well, that's okay. The reason I'm just going to mention real quick is I was a PA for 7 years, and my MAs would always be like, they, him, and her, and I'd be like, who's they? Who's him? Who's her? So I was always very specific that I needed to know who we were talking about.
Well, in a show like this, when you say they, really I'm referring to the people making the virus. So I shouldn't have said they. Because they really are they in this show. Oh, hey, Joffrey. So, anyway, another element here that is one scene they show an ascent up a staircase in this pattern here. Now, obviously, it's just a staircase, but it did get you kind of thinking because the person that shared this icon here, and of course, that means boy love, right? And the FBI database, they say that in the pedophilia realm, this would mean boy lover. So it's kind of interesting that, we're dealing with a show that, does incorporate some degree of child abuse, and we don't really know what all is going on with these kids, but, here's this symbol here.
Also, it's pyramidal, so pyramid.
Yeah, and we've already shown you how they were putting them in boxes and stuff anyway. So, okay, so I got another image of this that's a little more blown up. But in this particular scene, you got this guy here with wearing the glasses. They think that this guy's Mr. Rabbit, which is who they're after. I guess that's actually the Christie guy, Mr.
Right.
Cusack. And so they think it's this guy, and they track him down, only to find out that his wife is his handler.
This guy's a doctor, and he thinks he's got the cure for the virus that's spreading throughout children specifically right now. So this is a doctor that thinks it's his virus that he's got a cure for. But yeah, so go on about his wife.
And honestly, this is the best way to really frame the Bill and Melinda Gates relationship, because, you know, maybe it's not true, but to me, she seems like his handler.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch this show, if you were to only see these parts with him and his wife and how that unfolds, you know, she always acts like she's clueless. Oh, honey, you know, she's so supportive of his job, blah, 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 blah. And like at some point, he finally crosses the line. And he's like, I have to tell the truth. And, you know, they're wanting to push this vaccine out and blah, 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 blah. Well, what was going on was, if you recall, they were infecting children. And there was this virus that was only affecting children. And also, they were getting it through, what was it? Influenza was in the synthetic meat.
Mm-hmm.
That was really early in the
fake
show.
meat. Yep.
So that's one of the things that you kind of overlook. I always forget that this all started with synthetic meat. And so in the show, reporters are like trying to get an interview with this guy. And they're like, does your meat have the flu? You know, and just so weird. He jumps up out of the interview and storms off, you know, and
Which was all just acting because he was able to.
he knew all along it was in there.
Well, so the acting part was him. He acting like he was upset about it, and it turns around that. So are you going to get back to the twin gal?
Oh yes.
Okay. So
in
let me just
fact,
let
I
you
was
go.
glad you helped me with this guy, because this helps set the stage a little bit. So they use this guy as a patsy.
Yeah.
And I don't have a good view of his face. I'm sorry.
It's unfortunate. It's the guy from The Office. The one that, you know, Dwight Schrute. That's who it is.
Are you kidding me? That's this guy?
Yeah. Yep.
What? Well, okay. So anyway, so this guy ends up, well, his wife had put him in the mental hospital a couple times, right?
Point. Yeah.
To like discredit him, make him think he was crazy or whatever, get him on some psych meds, la da da da, you know, tighten his leash a little bit. Well, while he was in there, he met who was really creating the virus, was some mad scientist dude that works with Mr. Christie, and he's actually Jessica Hyde's father.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's the one that makes these comics. And so while he was in the mental institution with this dude, all the stories they're telling each other, like he's basically giving him all the information to make these viruses with, like, because he had vaccines, he was very accomplished in his field, etc. He like works for the CDC, yada yada, but he's just a, you know, yes man,
yes,
straight arrow, all that jazz. And so, you know, they just used him as a fall guy. And here's what happens. So we go to, what is it, the Tuesday's Child episode here, and there's two of these girls,
twins,
as kind of depicted with this here, and I don't know their names, but that probably is important. I don't even know if they ever tell you. I don't actually.
They
don't think
do tell you
names.
Their names.
Oh, okay.
Just don't recall.
But what's really strange about this is because of the purpose thing you mentioned, like these girls are brainwashed to serve their purpose. But what's really interesting is this is actually their father, not Mr. Christie. But they're totally devoted to Mr. Christie. Now, strangely enough, even though they're twins, they do have a difference in demeanor. And one is more passive and obedient. And then the other has more like a Jezebel spirit where, you know, she was the one that was supposed to die. And instead, she took, you know, she didn't really take it, but because he done like an eeny, meeny, miny, mo between the two girls.
They had two twins, and yeah, they just did something like that to decide which one dies and which one lives.
But really, you could tell that the one didn't want to, because she wasn't supposed to. It was supposed to be this one, but because they couldn't decide, they made him choose, and he ended up choosing the one that he says shouldn't have. Now that ends up biting him because she starts changing the story and stuff. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So what happens is they use that guy and say that he created a vaccine. Well, what they've really done is they infect the other girl.
Look at that too. What is that called?
That's a QR code.
QR code.
Yeah, and Cicada gave us a few
On
of these.
a wafer like the Catholic Church.
Yeah, that usually will go take you to a website or something like that, or an app. And so what we notice here is that they have this, what you said, a wafer. Now I'm sure if you scanned this in that setting, it would probably just identify what it is
that they're giving her.
Was on, yeah, obviously. But thing is, we don't know that. I mean, like, I personally think they chose this on purpose. Like, this was meant to look like a communion wafer, in my opinion. And they give it to her, and this is the pure virus, he says, that it'll hit her really, really fast. And so she takes it like, the good girl she is, and then she starts coming down with the fever. Well, what they do is they let her die, and then they swap her out. I think incidentally, I happen to have the same, I think this is the same girl, incidentally. But what it is, the other girl, I think they usually have her hair down. Is how you can tell them apart. But anyway, the other one lives because she doesn't take the virus at all. And so they try to say that the vaccine works. And look, she's made a full recovery already. Well, this girl actually dies, and they just swap her out. Right. So it's really a deception. And then they
they pretend to give a vaccine, but really, all they had was an extra twin that didn't die.
Yeah, so it's a big bait and switch thing. And because everybody's already like up in our arms about, our children are dying, we need
They're begging for a vaccine. They're already
begging.
Like, give us the vaccine, give us the vaccine.
And so without even like trying too hard, this is so much like Operation Warp Speed. It's not even funny. Except that the demand in this show is real.
Right.
Because people are really dying.
That's what I was thinking. There's not quite the demand and begging for the vaccine like there is in this movie, which of course is because children are the ones being affected in the show, and in real life they are not.
Yeah, and so the big thing here is they want to vaccinate all the children too.
Right.
Now, but what does the vaccine do? Well, that's funny. You might ask, or not ask, Aaron, but
thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put it in this direction. So basically what this vaccine does is, do you know what it does? I don't want to say it all.
Well, this vaccine in particular sterilizes, which surprised me. I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to give them eternal life. I thought that's where it was going to go. Eternal life. And I was like, sterilization? Oh, we already know they do that.
Well, not outright like this, though. And again, not making any medical claims, but we don't know that this vaccine that they're trying to give us, they are trying to give us, wouldn't do the same thing. It's not like, because they didn't just come out, they didn't tell anybody that in the show.
But vaccines are already doing that.
Oh, well, I'd never heard that.
Really?
But it just makes me very suspicious because, when you hybridize a crop or you hybridize an animal, they can't reproduce.
Okay. The reason I know that they're already doing that is because it's been told that it's been causing sterilization in countries like Africa, where they really literally don't care. But we also know that they're putting in female abortive cells, and with the soy milk, that tends to affect the trans agenda and help create too much estrogen in men and that kind of thing to make them want to be women. And so there's The sterilization part was, unfortunately for me, a wah. I was like, no, eternal life. That's what you're supposed to get from it. So,
Well, and
anyway.
think about it though. How many people? I mean, I know that the show they didn't know about this, but think about it. What if, what if the side effect was, well, you can't have children? I mean, think how many people would
You'll
consider
live.
that a good thing.
Yeah, you'll
You
live,
know?
but you don't get to have any children.
And I
Oh,
thought,
okay.
wow, you know, because it's then you can just debauchery and everything, you know, like it makes sense. How a lot of people probably wouldn't mind, I don't think. But
I know.
anyway, what that does effectively is that's a dead tree, a dead branch, right? No, it cannot yield any fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So so when we look at this from a biblical perspective and the seed, and the parable of the wheat and the tares, well, if indeed you took this vaccine and it just so happens to have the side effect that no longer you can no longer reproduce, well, then what do you do with an unfruiting tree? You know, the Bible makes it very clear that those trees are hewn down and cast into the fire. You know, the wheat are gathered and the tares are burned, and so that's just why I want to convey that, because if you're really trying to understand like what it's doing to your DNA or how it's affecting it or whatever, I've mentioned in the past about the influenza, and enza means, this could be a good
Giant?
trivia question. Yeah. So we're alluding to giant, and of course, you know, yeah, Evel Knievel couldn't make that leap, right? Well, yeah, last week we covered the Clinton emails, and whose tomb were they looking for? In the Middle
Gilgamesh.
East? The man of renown, the giant, which I found out also that Orion was a giant hunter, not a giant hunter, but a hunter of giant proportions, and that he had become a lover of Artemis, but because he was a giant, Zeus hated giants, and he killed him, wouldn't allow her to date a giant, and I thought that was really weird. So Apollo and Zeus are both known giant slayers, apparently, and I had never known that and didn't glean that from all the stuff before. So now that I know that about Orion, that makes he's right next to the unicorn constellation. He's sandwiched right between Pegasus and Monticeros, the unicorn, and the unicorn horn points straight to his club. So we had an eclipse, a solar eclipse there, at that very top of that club of his on June 21st this year. So, you know, once I learned that he was a giant, I was like, oh, okay, then now that means a little bit more, especially when it says, you know, the parable of the fig tree talks about summer being nigh. Well, here we get a eclipse and Orion, Enza being a giant venom virus. I mean, and then the Corona constellation is right beside him. And all these things start to add up. Sorry, I got a little off the beaten path there with Utopia, but I just wanted to really emphasize the fact that Orion is considered this, I think it might very well be the Nimrod thing, because if you recall, the belt, his belt are where they get these, the rulers for Egypt were incarnated from his stars, Orion's belt.
Which is also how they decided on how to set up the pyramids all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. So they wanted to only incarnate this giant ruler. And you got to remember, even Saul, the first king of the Israelites, was, as Gary informed us, was very much like a giant, because he was taller than the rest.
Yeah.
So they, you know, people have always looked up to the giants, Aaron.
Literally and figuratively.
So, you know, I think that, and don't forget, you guys can order a copy of Gary's book off the Genesis 6 conspiracy website. I got a copy from my grandmother, and I had him sign it. I had him put, I'm a giant fan of yours, Grandma.
Oh, that's so good.
So
I love that.
I hope that she enjoys it. So anyway, this Enza theme with the virus we have and the giant theme there, I really want to mention that because what did we have happen just a week or two ago? What, the Artemis project and the Orion shuttle lifting off.
Oh,
So
I
we
missed
got
this. Educate me.
yeah, dude, believe me, I think I dropped it in the Discord, but I could be wrong.
Oh, apparently I missed that.
Well, I'll just do a really fast search because this is on topic. Orion Artemis space. The goal of this is to put the first woman and next man in space. Only Orion's not really a man; he's a giant. So, interesting.
Space, quote unquote, because I don't think they're going to space.
So here we go. The Orion is the spacecraft.
Okay.
Which is interesting to note this duo here, because if you go to the Monticeros, again, since we have Monticeros, the Monticeros constellation is a unicorn, and it's got a dog sitting on the back. Here it is. So this would be Orion, and this would be Artemis, essentially, in this context. Because right here is Orion, and this would point straight to his club. And so I think this is where we're getting all of our unicorn symbolism from, is, yes, this is supposed to be a pure animal that only let a pure soul sit on top of it, like a virgin maiden or something like that. We're supposed to only be the only people that could touch them. So in this case, I think the reason we have a unicorn, though, is because it just happens to be sitting right beside Orion. And so instead of just pointing out Orion, the more obvious thing, the less obvious tip of the hat or tip of the horn would be to show the unicorn, but really they're pointing at him, I think. So, and just so folks understand like what I'm talking about when I say Orion. Yeah. So like, that's not
the constellation.
So like he's got a club right here. Okay, and then the unicorn would be like right here, pointing at this. So anyway, remember there's like a corona too. In fact,
the corona borealis.
Yep. Why not just go ahead and show that corona borealis? And I mean, this is all very fascinating when these themes start to really keep showing up like that. It's really quite an
Jeffrey
intrigue.
Lane says, I want to point out to watch Man of Steel and I don't know what the BVS is, but Batman versus Superman, and then watch next year the Justice League 4-hour Snyder cut on HBO Max. They talk about everything you're talking about. Do you know who Darkseid is, spelled incorrectly, maybe on purpose, and his planet of apocalypse? Don't know.
No. But it sounds like it's up my alley, Joffrey. So if you want to, is he in the Discord?
I don't think he ever follows up with Discord or email like I ask him to. So.
Well, that'd be a great way to share content like that.
Yeah, that's what we do with the Discord.
Hop in there. Anyway, so this is a picture of Orion here. Now, wow. All right.
Holding the scorpion? What is that?
I think this is plants or something.
Okay.
I mean, it could very well be a creature he's slain. He was very well. He claimed to be able to kill any beast, and so Gaia was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna send a scorpion after you," and a scorpion killed him. So that's the story of the scorpion and how that happened. But anyway, look at this. Can you tell what that is?
Harp.
It is a harp. What did we read here?
Oh, one of them harps.
Yeah, they all fell down before the land, every one of them having harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. So, I think that's interesting that, the harp is right here, lyra, which Apollo was known to have. Now, this is where you can see that Corona Borealis is right beside him.
Yeah.
But note how this is actually incorrect. We know that a corona is Stephanos, which refers to the plant crown, not a spiky metal crown. So this just shows, and this here, another person just didn't get it right, where they put an actual crown instead of a laurel crown. They put a metal crown. And again, here's a more clear picture. Anyway, there's another constellation nearby with another crown. Did you know? Have you ever heard of Bootes? Bootes? Well, Bootes is his helper. And if I can find, let me actually bring Bootes up real quick too, because he's actually wielding a scythe.
I'm going to send out a new invite real quick while you're doing that to the Discord.
Yeah, Discord's free, folks. I mean, if you just give it a shot, you'll be impressed with how much it offers you for being free. You can even create your own server. So, you have a place to drop all your own links, pictures. You don't even have to invite anybody to it. It's just a handy tool to organize research. You can index it. What I mean by that is you can bring up a search, type in a word, and then it doesn't matter how much content you've accrued in a server. It'll sift through it and search it for you. It's just any serious researcher should have their own Discord server just for the sake of doing that. It adds time to your life. I can't even tell you how many hours I've spent trying to find stuff on my computer, whereas Discord, bam.
Yeah. Search
all right. And I don't get paid to say that, folks. I'm just a big fan. I'm a giant fan of Discord.
Giant.
So, anyway, right here we got Bootes wielding a spear and a scythe. He's a harvester, folks. We read in Revelation, it talks about riding in on the clouds with a golden scythe, sticking it into the ground, saying the harvest, it's time to harvest. And when he does that, that's supposed to be the twinkling of an eye moment, right? Mm-hmm. So, there's something going on here, folks, with these constellations. And then he's got Corona right beside him too. It's like at his feet, I think. Yeah, well, no. Okay, his is right here. So right here's another Corona. That's what he's cutting. He's in the Celtic Druids. They'd climb up top oaks with a golden sickle. They would harvest mistletoe, and it wasn't allowed to touch the ground. So, this could be representative of something like that, perhaps. But anyway, the point is that he's like a companion harvester. This could represent like one of the four horsemen or something like that, for all I know. But anyway, I wanted to point those things out about the constellations. I got on this topic by starting to talk about Orion, correct? And we were talking about the space program.
Yes, man. The gal.
I'm reeling it back, guys. Sorry.
No, it's good
coffee.
that you can even backtrack like that.
Yeah, I feel a little bit. I think I've gotten some rest. So, Orion spacecraft for Artemis 1. Let me drop a link here for you guys. So, hey, Megan, welcome. Hey,
Megan,
I also appreciate your help.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you got it.
She dropped a bunch of pictures in the Discord that I used. I sourced them. I appreciate that. It saved me an incredible amount of time. All right, so we're going to read a little bit about this article here from NASA, which, by the way, strange little fact, I was reading this. Apparently, the phone number, the telephone number President Nixon called to talk to Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon during the lunar landing of Apollo 11, was 666
Oh my
6666.
gosh. His
I mean, you can't
landline,
make this stuff up, guys.
that reached the moon. That's awesome. Oh, hey guys, and no lag at all.
Well, whatever. I mean, that's beside the point. Like, you could have said any other number but that. And, like, no matter how ridiculous it sounds, like, that right there is the most ridiculous thing, is that you couldn't find a phone number other than that.
Well, they didn't want to.
Obviously. So, yeah, folks. I mean, come on. And this is allegedly the devil's phone number. I'm not encouraging anybody to call this, but they say if you do, I guess it doesn't work, but then it calls you back. And people have gotten some really disturbing phone calls this way. So
number.
I would
Never.
encourage it, but I'm just saying,
Please
like,
just probably don't.
so when you consider the fact that these spirits could be living out there in the ether or something like that, you could very well be pinging one of those things with your scrying mirror when you do that. So, oh yeah, I'm glad that this came up because I've never thought to mention this. Is anybody, like, my phone's not a smartphone, so, but I'm going to open my phone and look at it. So look at if you can look at your phone right now, look at your dial pad, like where you would dial numbers. If you could bring that up on your screen right now, I really encourage it, because what you're going to notice is that's the separate tree of life. Your phone, your phone pad there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, so when you consider stuff like that, and the fact that it is indeed a scrying mirror, and the numbers and combinations you enter, that's no different than when you're meditating and you're planning a route on your tree of life, and you're like, well, I'm gonna go from this chakra to that chakra to that chakra to that chakra. Well, really, a phone number is a series of chakras, essentially. So when you start to understand occultism, I mean, a phone number is you're summoning somebody. Well, I wonder how Erin's doing. Let me summon
Channel
her.
her through this telephone. Of course, it wasn't that way when it was,
summon.
you know, those dial, the
Rotary.
old phone, rotary, thank you.
Yeah, well, even so, I mean, you know, you could get like weird stuff happening on those too. But anyway, I did want to make the point of mentioning like how closely similar the keypad is, because I've never thought to mention that before. And you know, it's 9/23. What do you know? September 23rd, 2017 was when we had that Revelation 12 sign, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So this space mission here, again, they're wanting to put the first woman and the next man on the moon. I don't know if Elon or anybody like that's involved in this, but you can read about that. I'm not an expert on the subject. I haven't read about it a lot, but I'm glad I remembered to mention it. So let's go back to there's an easier way to just do this. Just close the ones I've already talked about.
Yeah, I learned that after a while when I was doing live stuff. I'm like, okay, just close out, and you're done. And that helped a lot, yes.
Name that Pokemon. What do you think that is, Erin? What is this creature? I mean, obviously this is nonsense, but I mean, like, what kind of species do you think we're dealing with here? Or order or genus, perhaps? Like a llama, maybe, right?
Oh, yeah, that looks like a llama to me,
Alpaca.
but it's got wings. It's got big old, huge, creepy wings.
Yeah. And these are bat.
I don't
So
know
this
the difference
guy
between
here,
alpaca and llama.
well, I'm just trying to.
And there might be a difference. I don't know.
I'm sure there is, but this guy here is pointing out literally. He's tracing over the wings. This right here. Oops. He's saying that's the imprint of his virus in the eye of the rabbit.
All right.
That these are bat wings. That this was the Peruvian bat virus. What do you know? That's what they were trying to get us to believe anyway about bats being involved or something like that.
Bat Chinese
bat soup. Well, so anyway, this is Peruvian. so I think in this case, these types of creatures hail from that area of the
Yeah.
world. So they're kind of pointing into the South American region here, which again, with the topic we covered a week or two ago, what were the name of those sightless creatures? And this word that keeps popping up across different movies was the word, do you remember?
No.
Starts with a V.
Venom?
Vesps.
Oh, vesps. Oh.
Which is Spanish for wasp.
Ow.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we keep running across this weird vesp. I don't know why that's so popular right meow. So if folks can give us some insight on that and where else they might have heard about it. But we've come across at least 2 or 3 movies, I think, at this point that have all mentioned vesps in some capacity. They actually mention vesps in this show. I think in this particular scene, actually, he mentions vesps or something like that. Or at one point they do. So I thought it was odd that they would mention something like that in this show, but then also in what was it, The Silence, and then I don't know, something else. And so, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant is a acronym, WASP, also. And so what we're going to get into with some of this virus stuff, we're going to see that they're really trying to achieve some type of degree of ethnic cleansing or something like that, I think. Like some of these viruses, and if you research Bill Gates, man, like he's into the extinction. What is it? What do they call it? Extinction eugenics or something. I don't know what there's some phrase or term they try to put on it.
Oh.
But it's basically the science of selective viruses, like only affecting certain people or whatever, with certain markers. For instance, like this gene marker we'll cover is specific in what it does. Well, some of these viruses are going to attack certain parts of the world, certain people.
Oh,
certain
yeah, we were
ethnicities,
talking about
etc.
that in the Discord.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it. Okay, so you referred to the fairy here.
Fairy godmother, yeah.
Now, I'm not entirely certain how this perfectly fits in, except that they do try to reveal the identity of the fairy. And they say that it's this lady that turns out to be her mom, essentially. But what is she doing, right? She's playing with some puzzle pieces here. And she's putting together a puzzle. In fact, of course, I don't have it right next to it, but I'm pretty sure I got that. I got a link here where they're putting the puzzle together. They're sitting together, putting the puzzle together.
Together.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't have that pre-planned. Let me X a couple of these off. They are again. Fairy with her visiting a gravestone. They led her to believe her father was dead, so that might be what this scene's kind of trying to.
Wait, I thought she didn't know her father was dead, because then when she heard that, she freaked out and got under the sink.
Well, I know, but this is Jessica Hyde in the comic. Like, she had to read the comic to learn about herself. And I think that's why she thought her dad was dead too, because she heard that the place had burned down, and then after she researched the comic a little bit, Oh, by the way, if you've been noticing these along the side, there's a little girl that happens to be redheaded. She's just smart.
Redheaded, that's right.
Oh, wait, isn't she one of the special kids?
She was a foster child.
Yeah, but she knew. I think there might have been something in there that I missed. But anyway, regardless, she notices a trend here with patterns. And she is able to line all of these up, and it actually makes the shape of the new virus that hasn't yet come out. And so we'll actually see that at some point. Here's the children with their eyes bleeding. I think that was what the virus was doing to these kids, the ones that were getting infected. And there's the full image of the llama and Peruvian bat get up. Notice he's in a straitjacket, which is what was happening in the mental hospital.
But not to Mr. Rabbit.
Well, I know, but that's just I mean, that's where you would find a straitjacket would be there.
Okay. All right. Maybe
And
he was in a mental hospital, probably.
well, her father was in there with him because they showed the photo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
don't know who that dude is.
I thought it was maybe her dad. See the close up on the upper left of her dad?
Yeah, he's getting cash to be silent.
But he's got a rope. But he's got a rope around him.
That must be him.
Yeah, he's got a rope up in the little picture and rope in the big picture. Or you know what I mean?
He's sold out.
And you can see, like, if you go down, the teeth are like superimposed. There's these big molars that are superimposed, like they're not really part of. So like somehow some of the bones are superimposed. It's a drawing, so I don't mean it's superimposed like a photo.
Right here?
Yeah, and the teeth are the same way. It's like they're over superimposed, and then I think that red part looks like muscle tissue.
Yeah, I kind of
can't tell you what that means,
but blood. But yeah, well, this reminds me of that verse. What was it in Ezekiel 37 about the valley of the dry bones, prophesying to these bones, and sinew and everything will cling to them. And I mean, I don't know if that's what she's doing in this case.
Well, there's a kind of a separation between her and the dad, and then the rabbit's crossing both thresholds. You know, there's a separation between her and the dad, and then he's crossing them both, and she's where the bones are, and the living trees, and I don't know. I don't have a good breakdown of any of this. This is me just thinking out loud.
That's actually interesting. You're right. On this side's a lot of life, and on this side's a bunch of death.
Yeah.
That's
and teeth for some reason. Molars.
I don't see the teeth. Where are the teeth?
You're okay. Right between his feet, there's a skull with bones in the eyes. Now go right below that. No, you went too far.
Oh, okay.
And then right below that is another molar. Right below that to the right.
Dude.
And to the left, yeah.
Okay. You know, thanks, man. So I was having difficulty understanding, like, how this shin thing related. So maybe this can, like, be a good way to what letter is that in the Hebrew alphabet?
Oh yeah, that mountain one that you said
Shin.
we saw. Okay. Yeah.
Shin
Trivia
is the S, essentially. It's a W shape. Also means sin. And this is what we saw also on the tefillin, on the side of the tefillin box that he wore on the forehead, or anybody that practices it rather would wear on the forehead.
Oh, so the little black box on the forehead.
Yeah, so this is like his tefillin. Do you feel me?
And the one eye symbolism. Which
would be your third eye in this case with your tefillin. So I have, and oh man, so in the scene where can I talk about the eye thing real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so this guy's name is Wilson, incidentally.
Wilson.
That's his name?
Yeah.
Wilson.
Uh-huh.
What is going on here? Okay, well, notice here, how many teeth are there?
3.
And we know shin equals tooth also, right?
Oh, boy.
Do you know that?
No, of course not.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't want to just seem like I'm making this stuff up, so I'm going to even show folks. Shin, Hebrew meaning. 3, 6, 9. It'd be a letter value of 900 total. Interesting. Sorry, guys. I was thinking in my own head there. Wow, wait. This is really dark. I can't get this to lighten up. Sorry for the lull. Let me just go right here to this one. This might work. Okay. This one's at least brighter. So, okay. So you see here how, I mean, obviously it can be stylized with different things. But note here how similar this is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat of a stylized W, but then also see. Now, here's something interesting. A lot of people may not know, because I'm going to point this out, because I'm not going on a campaign against Mario, but definitely need to point this out too. Mario has this on his head, and red and blue are the colors of Sirius, and red party, blue party, the Hegelian dialectic, etc. So like the union of the two becoming one is what creates the Shin, like the third eye awakening, right? And we know that Mario has an association with lead pipes, because he's a plumber, so that's Saturn, right? And what we learn is, if you read about Shin, is it actually also means sin. So like Mario is literally the man of sin. So I don't mean to blow anybody's mind out there, but I'm just saying, like,
that's funny that you said that, because I'm like, my mind is exploding and
yeah.
imploding at the same time.
But that's what happens with this type of research. It's just everywhere like that. So once you see it, now you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And you'll notice it everywhere now. But I've noticed this also used in Dragon Ball Z, when they were like mind controlling some of the heroes. I never really watched these in depth, these particular episodes, but I think the villain's name is Babidi, and somehow or another he got the heroes to fall into his traps, where he put the symbol on their forehead, and then somehow or another he would gain control of them. But it wasn't until they broke that mental something or other that they were able to get them back somehow. But anyway, this is an interesting symbol. And
But it also means tooth, you said.
Yes, tooth. So let's go back. Sin, tooth, eye for an eye. Oh, man, eye for an eye. Tooth for a tooth. Man, where you go? This is crazy. All right, so it's the so anyway, we're gonna talk a little bit about this Shin thing here. I actually don't really see what I need to really mention, aside from the fact that it's sin related and
shown,
stuff.
It means tooth, it means sin.
Oh yeah, tooth. Sorry, I forgot what I was looking for. There we go. The proto-Sinaitic glyph, according to William Albright, was used on a tooth, and when the phonetic value S corresponds etymologically, in part at least, to original Semitic the, which was pronounced S in South Canaanite. Wow.
Been based on a pictogram of a tooth.
I just realized something.
Hey, you should go back and look at those teeth and see if they have that W shape in them.
The ones I found on Passover did. I found one that had 3 dips in it. Where was I at with the tooth thing? Was that here?
I think. No.
There's 3 roots on them. So yeah, I mean, that's Shin, essentially. Because when I found the teeth I found, there was one that had 2, so I didn't consider that a shinny tooth, nor the other. But there was one that had 3 roots, and I considered that one a Shin tooth.
World Bigfoot Radio says Shin Godzilla. There was a Shin Godzilla, maybe?
Shin, you mean like the fins on his back?
No, Shin. Like there must have been a name for one of the, like there must have been a Shin Godzilla. Like a name.
Oh. Well, I'm sure that one was pretty terrible, but I'm not familiar with it. Strangely enough, Godzilla was the answer to a trivia question Wednesday night at trivia night. That happens to me quite frequently. Like things that are so random that show up at like trivia night or something like that, or I'll talk about stuff before I get there that ends up being there. It's just weird how that keeps happening.
Hold on. Harry B says Mount Sinai is also called Mount Sen Shin.
What? Gosh, that's why I love doing these types of things with the people, because I just okay. What one? Mount Sinai.
And Rockman says Shin means Goku in Japanese.
What?
Shin,
That's
now
Dragon Ball Z
Now
character.
he's saying Shin means super. Wait, he goes, I mean super. Does that mean it doesn't mean Goku?
Super Saiyan is.
Jeffrey says,
again,
who is
Goku.
that tied to the tree? And we think it's her dad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, Shin.
Biggest Godzilla movie in the history of Japan, by the way, is Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla! Godzilla!
Well,
and
and the
now
question
I'm a
for
racist,
trivia night was this:
according to YouTube.
is this creature's outside the such and such theater in Japan or whatever? So I'd say it's probably that very
Shin
theater.
Godzilla.
I can see that your mouth's not matching your words, Aaron.
How can you see that?
Are you having
I don't have a video
buffering
up.
issues? I was joking.
Oh, I get it, because I'm
Yeah.
I'm slow, literally and figuratively, according to the lab.
Shinar. Oh man, sorry, I'm seeing
Shin Gojira, spelled Gojira, is a 2016 Japanese kaiju film directed by I'm not saying these things right. Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi. Shin Gojira. Gojira! That's why they say it like that. They're not actually just totally messing up our language. That's actually what they call him. We're such jerks for thinking that they just can't say L's, or I don't know.
Oh man,
Shin
you guys are blowing
Gojira.
my mind. Dragon Ball Z is about Nephilim, dude. I mean, Goku is a space alien, and so is Vegeta. He was sent here to destroy the Earth, and when he got here, he fell and hit his head and like lost his, sinful nature somehow. I guess he hit his head on a rock, pineal gland. Wow. All right, so he got all good-natured and decided he was going to live here on Earth, and la-da-da-da. He ends up having a son with Chi-Chi. And that's Gohan, so Gohan's Nephilim. Man, this is some
Goku
wild
also
stuff.
turns into a giant gorilla, and King Kong fought Gojira. Godzilla.
I did not expect DBZ to be so popular tonight. This is so weird. Yes, and guess what? They only did that when they saw the moon. So they had a tail, and if they saw the moon, that's how they were considered planet killers. They would send these little dudes to the planet, and even if they didn't know how to fight, it didn't matter. They just had to stay alive long enough to see the moon, and then they would turn into these giant creatures and just destroy everything. So they didn't even have to be proficient martial artists. So they were just basically weapons. So they sent him a baby to this planet to be a weapon, just to destroy it. And they wondered, well, why isn't this planet destroyed yet? So then eventually they go there, and they end up having to fight him. But anyway, I don't want to get off on Dragon Ball Z. It's fascinating. I just didn't realize it would be
I'm
at all
more
relevant.
interested than I thought I would be.
Well, it's honestly, it's great, but it takes episodes. The arcs are excruciatingly slow. Fights can take up like 5 episodes just because they're all like so dramatic, powering up.
And this is animation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And a weird thing, like maybe you haven't seen it, but I'm sure the crowd has, some of them. When they power up, their hair like raises up and stuff. Well, when I charge up for Reiki or whatever, when I pray or meditate, I get chill bumps all over. Yeah, like
You're not
stuff like
supposed to be
that.
doing that.
Well, I don't. I just know how. And but my hairs will raise up like that too.
Well,
so there's something to that. Yeah, you're like raising up your energy, quite literally.
But you look at Godzilla. The most recent Godzilla one I watched, he's like a nuclear reactor.
Oh, an atom.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a better picture of the virus. And she's calling it FringeCon here, and we see this is the times all the people are supposed to get there, I think.
Yep.
They hadn't met one another before.
Yeah, but they knew each other online.
Mm-hmm. So again, just a cautionary tale of meeting up at Comic-Cons. Just don't put your name on a list, and if you do, don't put your room number. And
Well, Wilson was really specific about. He's like, "I'll call you." Remember? He was
well,
the
that
actual,
and he only
like,
put his first name and nothing. Didn't
well,
put
which is
anything
all
else.
his names.
He was the. Yeah, that's funny. I didn't realize his name was Wilson. But so what we'll find is that he was the most conscientious of the whole gang, and he ends up losing his eye, which we'll talk about in a second. I just want to get through some of these other panels because it'll help me get to the other stuff a little more quickly.
Yeah, we better.
Red horse is war, typically. Now, all of these horses are red, so I'm not sure if that's what they're trying to convey. But rider on the red horse does bring a plague, whether it's war, famine, disease, etc. And we did show the unicorn and the little dog riding it, how that could be that too, where she's the little dog riding the unicorn. Horse symbolism is typically associated with the divine, from what I can tell, particularly with Poseidon too, if you're going to like associate it with a particular type of god archetype. Here we see a very disturbing set of images. Mr. Rabbit looking on over the people just attacking one another. I can only assume that this is in the midst of a plague.
Yeah.
There's no food and stuff like that.
Right. Toilet paper. Get the toilet paper. And the sun is rising.
Yeah, is this a roll of toilet paper?
Yeah, and the sun is rising, and Mr. Rabbit's watching from afar, just enjoying the scenery, I guess.
Well, and another thing to point out here is that they're in a desert. The Bible considers the desert the place of desolation and destruction.
And they look like
and
zombies.
So,
like the vaccine maybe has zombified them. Sorry, I interrupted.
That's fine. I mean, there's, it is what it is. But those who take the mark will be led into desolation, into the desert like the scapegoat, and to be destroyed. So I can only assume that's kind of what's being depicted here. They're eating, gnashing of teeth, eating one another. It's just all despicable behavior. They're bestial in a sense. Yeah. And just a sidebar, Megiddo is this big war where, all the evil armies are supposed to gather and be destroyed. Well, I was doing some Anunnaki research a few days ago, and apparently, the consensus is that they too had an atomic war at one time. And I would say that, that's probably how Africa ended up being turned into a desert, is that they had a large-scale nuclear war in Mesopotamia region, and so this long-standing tradition of it being desolate or desolation in the desert is just this place of destruction. It's kind of a repeating thing. I think it just happens so seldom that we tend to forget that it had happened. So I'd be kind of interested to see if anybody had ever done some readings on radioactivity in those areas. That'd be interesting. Not to mention, we see in some mentions of the Bible a sea of glass. So what happens to sand when it gets blasted with nuclear blast?
Yeah, it's like glass
turns into glass.
Yeah.
So, okay, so finally got back to the twins thing here, and I'm sorry I got derailed like that, but this is actually Arby, by the way.
Oh, that makes sense. That's right, because he's a brother to... Wait, okay, anyway, go ahead. Well,
he's a brother to all of them, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think there's a second one of him.
No.
That's why I think that him and Jessica Hyde are literally brother and sister, but I think they're fraternal maybe or something like that, because they don't have... He ends up recognizing that she's a kindred spirit at the very least. but otherwise they're singled out as not being doubles. Now, I could be wrong, but I think Lepus, isn't this wolf? Lupus is wolf. So Lepus is close enough to wolf.
Okay, you could look it up really quickly.
Or Lepus. Leprosy. That's not spelled the same.
Hares, rabbits. It's a rabbit.
Wow. Not to mention it's right next to Orion.
Oh, wow.
Why not?
Glad
right?
you looked it up.
Stuff gets to me every time. Okay, so back to
And then
Lepus.
next to him is a double cross, like double cross to betray.
Oh, I never would have thought that actually.
Well, that's because I
when
thought
look
of
at
that from V from Vendetta, because V for Vendetta had the double cross symbolism as well, a literal double cross for the agents that kept them from going out at night and things like that.
Well, it's also an alchemical symbol, and this would appear on the Strength tarot card with the green lion representing strength, and this would be at the stage known as vitriol. So now that I'm seeing this over again, this represents the purified sulfur and the vitriol, maybe. I need to sharpen up on my alchemy. But anyway, the two of them are separated and then joined, and that's what this represents. And then you get the crown. So really, this also represents the strength card, but in the final step, well, one of the final steps, I think, of alchemy, which is the green lion. So this would precede the feast, actually. So I think that they're probably using some strong symbolism here to convey that kind of thing.
And the rabbit oversees it all.
Yeah, but see, this is a wolf.
But the rabbit's above his head, so that's who they really worship.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to understand, like, is he a wolf in sheep's clothing? Like, he looks like he's serving communion and stuff too, or something like that. Because so this communion motif might actually be what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. Hair. Oh, Lepus, hair. So remember I Pet Goat too, right? So we got the buck deer and the rabbit.
Buck rabbit.
A boy rabbit is a buck. So once again, we see that. Now I tried counting this guy's stars. I thought maybe he represented Revelation 12:1, the Queen of Heaven or the woman clothed with the sun, with its crown of 12 stars, etc.
Looks like 10.
I thought maybe. Pardon?
Looks like 10 to me. That you can see.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell. But of course, this one, I mean, I don't know if that one counts.
Okay.
I don't know.
And the shadow star. The shadow star and that star, maybe. Anyway.
I was trying to see. I was pretty sure this guy had some type of symbolism, but I couldn't quite figure it out. But I mean, at the very least, it's S. And then he ends up having the shin. So maybe there's something to it. It's probably alchemical, actually, because we see this guy here too, and this would be like your 923 Artemis symbolism, which Artemis is a character. Oh wow, Artemis is an old lady in this show that Jessica Hyde runs into, and she teaches her how to hunt rabbits.
Isn't Artemis the fairy godmother?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, well that would make a lot more sense.
Artemis is the fairy godmother.
Until just now. Yeah, okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense then. So her fairy godmother, who taught her to fight, taught her everything she knew. Athena, of course, is the goddess of war and wisdom. So, everything she was taught, she learned from this lady. She had ran away and
Wait, you said Athena,
somehow.
But it's Artemis.
Well, yeah, sorry about that.
Are you making a comparison to the two?
It is actually the goddess of wisdom and war. I was just forgetting which goddess we were talking about.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Artemis.
well, essentially, I mean, they're both warlike to a degree, though. But anyway, Artemis taught her how to become like an Athena. But what's interesting about Artemis is she's the protector of children. And as we noticed earlier, there's all these themes of child abuse and, you know, the possible symbolism with the triangle and stuff like that. So we see that Artemis is kind of representative of this retributive quality, right? And she teaches her how to hunt rabbits, which in this, the lepus represents the Church of the Unholy Communion, as I saw somebody reference the communion wafer there as the unholy communion. So yeah, let's go ahead and take that guy off. And finally, we're back to where you can talk about this now. So when this scene opens, these two girls are actually sitting there enjoying a last meal together as sisters, knowing that one of them is going to die, right? I think the one, you know, there was one that wanted to and one that didn't, but they, you know, again, decided they couldn't. But let's talk about this table, because what's on this table is actually very interesting. It starts off showing you shellfish like lobster and shrimp and all that. Those are unclean animals. You're not supposed to eat them. There's not one thing on that table that you would like you know what I mean? Like everything on the table is basically something you shouldn't be eating. It was an unclean creature. And at one point they even make it a point to say, "Oh, what's this?" And they got the green colored Jello, you know, wiggling on the spoon. And he's like, "Oh, it's Jello," and because they're very sheltered, they've never been out in the world or anything like that.
Kind of stuff.
But what is Jello made of, Aaron?
Sugar, water.
Oh, I hope this isn't going to be a
sugar water.
Oh, I wish
Men
that
in
was
Black.
all it was. No, what's the gelatin itself made of?
I can't think of the word plastic, but it's a word I can't think of.
It's animals.
Oh,
like bones,
animals.
organs,
Oh, gross.
collagen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting. It is mystery meat extraordinaire. I mean, you're getting like everything, the connective tissues of all these different possible animals and stuff are going into so Jello. Yes, is that. So I'm sorry, folks. You know, there might be types of gelatin that you can, in fact, again, you don't have to take my word for it. Let's go down this sad rabbit hole together. Gelatin.
Cow hooves.
Yeah, it's basically anything they can't sell.
Pig,
Goes
lard, bone marrow. Oh, really?
Yeah, man.
Oh,
so,
man.
like, you talk about a feast, an unclean feast. I mean, you got hoof on there. You know, hoof and lobster and shrimp. I mean, like, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this, but there's nothing in this scene to support otherwise. I mean, like, I think they purposefully made this to be an unclean feast. And indeed, what's the dessert for this unclean feast? Well, my dear, how about a venomous wafer? So it's like right after they take the abominations. I mean, God calls a lot of these creatures abominations. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I love the taste of shrimp and lobster and all that stuff, and you know, and there'll be occasions where I might eat it just for the sake of saving face with somebody, not offending them or whatever, you know what I mean? But like, those are the only exceptions. Like, I don't seek it out myself and eat it, you know? And but we see here that, like, if your last meal on earth, you had the option of eating whatever you wanted, you know, all the delicacies happen to be these unclean creatures. And that's where we get purple dye from, you know, is from the sea, the seashells and stuff. It's derived from that. It stinks horribly. So that's why the royalty would hold their nose up, right? Because they couldn't even stand the stench of themselves from all the sea creature ness on them. But
World Bigfoot Radio says water bugs, and I'm thinking, well, when you put it that way, not so appetizing.
yeah, I mean they're bottom feeders. I mean that's catfish, any scaleless fish is considered to be that way, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. That's just exactly how
Well,
it is
it's
in the Bible.
also,
You know?
let's remind everybody, like when I talked about cutting out pork from my diet,
Yeah.
it's not because NPC said, "Oh, Aaron, how unclean of you." He just mentioned that that's how he felt about it, and then in my prayerful life, I felt convicted of it. That doesn't mean we're sitting here going, "If you all don't get rid of that pork, we don't know you. You ain't black."
Yeah. Oh man, I tell you, it's comical that guy's got this far in life. But
they're feeding him some kind of stuff to survive until just until
unless
they
it's
don't need
his
him
clone.
anymore. Yeah, that
Probably
could
his
be.
clone,
Could
man. I
be.
don't think can't even be him at this point. So you know they got this table set with. Oh man, glad I remembered. Although I had much better clips. I might feature a few of these pictures on another show just because they were so good at showing what I needed to show. But there's a candelabra back here with 3 candles only, which again, what's the mark of the beast? Evolve, and evolve. So 111 essentially is your mark of the beast. So sitting on this unclean feast is 3 lit candles, which again is the Shin, right? We already got off that topic a minute ago, but right here, 1, 2, 3. So you know, we see this theme keeps popping up. Here it is again, the 3 flames, and that's to represent the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
Oh look, a sin dot. So
yes.
you could probably even represent it with 3 dots, like an ellipsis.
There was one that showed that. There was 3 dots over it in the Arabic version, I think it was. 3 dots over the top, I thought. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, right here. That's stylized a little differently, but basically the same.
Arabic. Because I'm obviously fluent. No, not at all. Obviously, okay, as I get tired, I get a little goofier, so if y'all don't like it, I'm so sorry.
Oh, I get it. I mean, if I didn't drink coffee, I'd be far worse. Sorry, guys, I didn't mean to lollygag there. So this Shin thing keeps coming up. So this is probably the most striking, similar version of like the candelabra. Okay, so if you watch that scene, pay attention to the candles. Pay attention to what's on. Come on, man. Come on, seriously. Yeah, he's so sad. It has to be the end of the world, man. Because if it's not, it will be soon. If that's what we got going on.
If he wins, then please, Lord Jesus, come back. Please.
Whew. I mean, Trump can't get reelected a second or a third time anyway, so like we'd still be in a fix 4 years from now, even best case scenario. Anyway,
we're losing ourselves. We're losing it.
Something caught my attention. Department of Internal General Security is the Shin Bet. So like their security service is kind of holds this weird I'm going to have to do some serious research into Shin because it looks like it's connected to so many things. And while we're on the topic, in the Sefer Yetzirah, the letter Shin is king over fire. Whew! Formed heaven and the universe, hot in the ear and head in the soul. Yod, Resh. Yod is fire in the head. That's why they wore that tefillin on their head. Remember that to represent the fire in the head, the Holy Spirit. King. Man, this is good stuff. Anyway, so the flames on these candles really are not out of place. If this is fire anyway. So anyway, we see the setting here, and then also these pearls are from the sea, just like all the seafood here on the table. she's covered in sea stuff herself. So this could be a reference to the Scythians, the seafaring peoples that were like light-skinned, blue-eyed, red-haired. And there again, this could be like almost like the menorah kind of looking thing. Somebody showed how that kind of looked similar, I think. And let's see, maybe we can finally get off this.
I can't stop reading the comments and they're making me laugh.
Oh, you can say anything.
World Bigfoot Radio says, "Come on, man," is cultural appropriation of the 1970s.
I just wonder, like, he reminds me of like a Furby or something. It's like if you just hit him the right way or wave your hands in front of his face, he's going to utter some off the wall phrase.
Oh my gosh, I had a Furby. That is hilarious. Like, can you imagine giving your kids a Furby today? Do you think they would? Well, you don't have kids, but I mean, a kid. Can you imagine giving a kid a Furby today? Do you think they would think it was cool, or do you think they'd be like, what is this? I don't know. I think they would think it was cool.
Well,
Maybe
there's a
they're so
guy
wrong.
that there's a guy that made a synthesizer organ. He like rigged up all these Arduinos and like I don't know how many Furbies he put on it, but he made like an organ and synth music out of this. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing actually. But he got it working, and
Wow.
yeah, people got
Okay.
way too much money and time on their hands.
Sorry about the Furby sidebar, but yeah, that's pretty awesome
But
to compare him to a Furby.
this particular thing right here really needs to be paid attention to. So, if you guys start seeing this kind of thing out there,
On your wafers.
beware. But here's the thing. If anybody can try to, I know that this right here is blocking this, so it might be impossible to actually scan this. But I was wondering if this would actually lead to anything. So, that's about as clear as a picture as I could get. So if anybody has like a smartphone and they can bop that real quick on the screen, maybe, I don't know. If
Hopefully it's not like dialing 666 666 666.
Yeah, I tell you, I wish I was making this stuff up. Like I don't even know how I find all this stuff. Anyway, I'd say like if anything, the algorithms at this point are just helping me. It's like, hey, you're really into all this apocalypse stuff. Here's more. So, okay, the mouth is a gateway, by the way. What's the Bible say? So we were on the topic of unclean creatures and pork. Why not talk about this? So it's not what goes in the body that defiles you. It's what comes out, Jesus said. So just for anybody out there that doesn't want to give up their animals, that's what it says in the Bible. Yes, in the Old Testament it says these creatures are unclean, you shouldn't eat them. Then, but we read also it says it's what comes out of your mouth that makes your body unclean. So what that's really meaning, that doesn't mean persist and to continue eating your unclean animals. That means you got to have a metanoia, a change of heart. You don't follow the law just because it says not to eat pork. You're like, well, all right, I guess I got to give up pork, because without the understanding and just blind obedience, you might also carry some resentment or something like that, or so on and so forth. But when you really want to seek to understand, well, why are we not allowed to eat these creatures? That's begins this path of understanding then, and we can say, okay, so yeah, maybe it's not what goes in your mouth that pollutes your body, but what comes out. Well, because you wouldn't be keeping the laws for the right reason in the first place if your heart wasn't already in the right place. So I think that's really saying is, you got to have that change take place in you internally before following the laws makes any difference at all. And I think that really what this boils down to is that if you kept a clean temple, you could still become inhabited with demons.
Yes.
Whereas somebody that maybe has a dirty temple might still have some connection to the Holy
that
Spirit.
story is exactly mentioned in where the tax collector is in there praying in the church, and like the good law-keeping Jew is like, oh Lord, thank you that I'm not like that guy. Meanwhile, that guy's not.
Yeah,
That guy's
there
just
you go.
pouring his heart out to
And then the
Lord.
one lady gave everything she had. You
Right,
know?
the widow.
So, yes, of course. I mean, you got to have it. Your heart's got to be in it to begin with, or you're in. Because again, if thine eye be single, thy whole body be full of light. But if thine eye be dark, then it says, how great is that darkness in you? So just having the two become one, if you will, and being able to inhabit a spirit doesn't mean you're going to inhabit the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to make
what have we
sure
not
that I
covered
didn't.
yet? Let's.
I think we've covered almost everything. So we're up to Shin on this guy now, and I need to talk about what they did to this poor fella.
Oh yeah.
So
the
Wilson,
salt.
Wilson gets Wilson is holed up in his bunker underground. And what happened is after they killed all the people on the list that had maybe come in contact with Utopia and bought the copy, because at this point the guy didn't know who had it.
Right.
So he just went on a mad killing rampage.
Which was
killing all
Arby.
these people's families. Yeah, Arby. Which is strange because when the show starts out, like you think that he's just some like kecker from a basement somewhere, going to the Comic-Con. But it turns out he's like the right hand of this pharmaceutical dude, and he's like murdering people in cold blood. So his character kind of is a little off-putting at first. Like you don't even really know what to think of him. But as his character develops toward the end of the show,
he becomes
you
likable.
Yeah, because like
It's really
he's
weird.
he's only evil because he didn't know
They made
how
him
to
that
be
way.
any other
He's an
way.
assassin. He's an
Yeah,
assassin.
they made him to be an assassin.
And then he becomes likable. Yeah, that's weird.
Which is a trend in some of these shows I've been watching, where they use that MK Ultra stuff to program people. And then, with certain cues and such, or certain pressures, they can get them to, enter a state of plausible deniability or martial arts training or linguistical training, et cetera, et cetera. It's similar in this regard. Anyway, this is the girl that had what did you call that? Deals. She would have random spasms, and at one point she does choke on her tongue. Anyway, this is the guy. He gets ambushed by Arby and his henchman, which, by the way, the henchman is decked out in red and black, which alchemically, that's Rebetto and Nigretto. It's the first couple stages of alchemy, and it's governed by, the devil was part of this somehow. I'm not sure exactly what role.
It goes black, white, red, then gold. But yes, anyway.
Okay. Well, look at you. So
I've done a few videos on this. The black is when your eyes are closed. The white is when your eyes are open. The red is when you have come to acceptance and understanding. And gold is you've made it, baby. You're ascended.
Holy moly. Wow. Okay. Sorry. You just blew my mind, man. So anyway, what they do to this guy is he doesn't know where Jessica Hyde is. He doesn't know anything.
And he has a bunker.
And he's in his bunker. Okay. All of his friends have went to go to Tim Hortons or something stupid to go get coffee and donuts. And he's like, whatever, I'm going to stay here. And so while he's the most responsible and cautious one staying in his bunker, all the while his family had already been murdered in the house by Arby. Mm-hmm. And then they show up to get him. And what they do to him is they tie him up to this chair, and he says, okay, first time it's going to be salt. Second time it's going to be bleach. The third time it'll be the spoon. Well, at that point, you don't really know what he's talking about. But the first time he doesn't give him the answer he wants.
His eyes are red and watering like the little kids in that picture.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting comparison. I didn't see the first time. And then he rubs his eye, too, to make it red. Like when he's done putting the salt on him, then he rubs the salt into his left eye, but doesn't do it to the other one. And then he pours the bleach over him the second time, and that makes it to where the eye doesn't work anymore, pretty much. And then the third time he takes a spoon and digs it out of his head. And at that point, of course, he's in a lot of pain and he's suffering. But I wanted to make a couple mentions here of some things. Do you know the chemical formula for salt?
NaCl, sodium chloride.
Yeah. And formula for, I can't quite remember what bleach is. It's like sodium hypochlorite, I think.
I'm surprised you didn't quiz me on that.
There we go. Sodium hypochlorite is commonly known as bleach.
NaClO.
So that's NaOCl.
Or NaClO.
So what's the common thing? NaCl. The only thing that's the difference between salt and bleach apparently is an extra oxygen molecule. So, what color is green in the context of the Bible in like Revelation when it talks about the fourth horseman? Chloros is green. Chlorine is yellow-green, right? So in both cases, when this poor fellow is getting accosted by these two henchmen, they're pouring crystal chlorine over his eye, then liquid chlorine over his eye, then digging it out with a I'm just going to say silver, or whatever.
Allegedly.
A spoon, So digging it out with a spoon then too. But they did it to the red eye. Now,
the left eye.
Yeah, and now here's the difference, is that in the British version of this film, it's his right eye.
That is odd. And you've mentioned that there's an eye difference in the pyramid yourself. Or not the pyramid. Yeah, you said there's an eye difference.
Oh, yeah. The two eyes themselves do mean different things. The right eye is Ra. It's associated with Ra, the sun. Excuse me, as in the large sun.
Hot burning sun.
Hot burning sun. And then the Horus is the left eye, being his son, child son. So the left versus the right in that way. So I never watched this yet, like I said, so I don't know exactly what's going on here, and if it mattered if it was left or right, or if that was just some like minor thing they overlooked. But what I will point out, I don't think it was an accident, because Arby actually mentions this. He says, "Which one will we take?" The left one, or you know what I mean. Right. So, which right?
Here's why there might be a difference, because if you think about the original authors, they may not have had any occult idealism or symbolism of any kind that they wanted to produce, right? Like they just may have written a story that they thought was good, but and maybe a British group picked it up and it hit bigger than they thought it was going to, and certainly I know people were really upset when it didn't continue. And then to make it an Americanized version, they probably just doubled down on or tripled down or quadrupled down, or maybe just completely put in altogether all the symbolism, which is odd, because somebody mentioned at the very beginning this is such an anti-vaccine movie, or show, excuse me, that they were surprised that such a strong anti-vaccine show would be put out when it was. And so maybe they had to just it's predictive programming in a way, I guess, put their symbolism on it or make it seem unreal in some way. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe.
Well, I mean, we could do a little bit of research on like the producers and like the studios and things like that, because honestly, I'm not sure how much of an influence Hollywood at large has on. I know they're emulated a lot by other countries, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the connections are between the shows. Because, for instance, you would have somebody known as a dramaturg who would be taking note of little things like, oh, well, it's the wrong eye, guys. We got to switch that, So if they were really trying to make it the same, they should have been catching stuff like that. So one thing to note would be to go back to the scene where they dig his eye out and see, well, in the British version, do they make some comment like pick an eye?
Yeah.
Okay, they're right. well, then they purposefully switched it to the left in this show. But what I did note is I never noticed this shin on the British guy ever.
That's why I'm saying
but,
that a little bit.
But that said, he did change several eye patches, and it wasn't until he got to later in the show, which you just explained to me, the red eye means what?
Oh, sorry. The hermetic alchemy, not necessarily the eye, but the color. Black is when your eyes are closed. I guess I did bring up the eyes. White is when your eyes are opened, and red is acceptance.
So it's when he became, and that's exactly what happens to this character. He changes, like, his attitude, even though he's all against it and everything. At some point, he shows up in a SUV with the Christie guy.
That's right.
And they're like, what the heck's going on here? And he's like, I see, he knows too much at this point. And he's like, he's like, all right, I get it. So he's went past that acceptance stage, right? Whew. Man, that's interesting. Thanks for that. So anyway, let's go into this clip right here. And the reason is we're kind of priming you for Cicada here in a minute. I'm going to talk about that briefly. But Janus is the god of gates and many other things. Janitor holds all the keys to all the doors, right? Does all the cleaning with the bleach, I guess, in this case. So we're going to do a little bit of clip here. This is the British Utopia, and this is where they talk a little bit about Janus, which is not featured in the American version. So again, another difference. Oh, let me reposition my mic here. So, I'll actually have to take my headphones off to ensure you get sound too. So give me some feedback about whether or not there is any feedback.
Okay.
And I won't keep playing it until I know for sure it's working.
Okay.
All right.
Why did you do that?
We can hear it.
We can hear it.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes.
What is hard to
Well, it's hard to
understand?
understand.
Hold on, I was going to see. There's no.
Just hang on a minute.
In a few days, I'm going to call either Paul or one of the other two. I'll give a command that only I know. And in about 90 days, that person will release the most deadly flu this world has ever seen. Everyone will take the vaccine. Everyone will willingly take Janus. It'll be chaos, it will, but in less than 100 years, there'll be no more than 500 million people on this planet. We will have created utopia.
There it was, folks. That was the namesake of the show. I don't know when they actually say that in the other.
They don't say
They
it.
don't.
Oh,
That's what's interesting is I'm like, oh, well, that's where they finally say the words, but I've never heard them say. But who is she? Is she Artemis in the British version? Who is she?
I don't think so because, well, I don't know. I don't have a clue. She looks like somebody that would be on the pharmaceutical end because remember he's with them at some point. And what I also noticed is after talking to you about this, what color is his eye patch?
Red.
So even if it's on the wrong eye, it still represents that same thing, I think. I dreamt of a face with one red eye once, and when I saw his face, he looked just like this guy, man, except this eye was red, and his name was Death. So I'm telling you, this really creeps me out. This was several months ago. Whew. Anyway, on to the next one. So this is where the godmother is helping them put together a puzzle. But this happens to be the shape of the virus that hasn't yet appeared.
Virus, yeah.
Now these hands here are darker,
Yeah, dark
which
skin.
look do look like her mom's hands, I guess. So I don't know. This is like a disjointed frame. It almost seems like two different pictures or something. But then, so I guess these hands are here. Because when you get back, it's like her mom is supposed to be this blue fairy person, which I know, or Artemis. Artemis, I think, might have that same skin tone. So I'm not real sure how to interpret this. But notice how, for her, fun and games is creating viruses, but she doesn't even realize what she's doing. So, like, she's being used and to cultivate these viruses, because where they would normally make something like that in an egg, like a vaccine or something, they're like really just using her to make a chimera virus of all these other viruses.
Yeah.
Okay. And which they apparently refer to as Janus in this case. Well, we're almost. Okay, so that one I can get rid of. This one I can get rid of. Wilson. He's a defector, so this is pink.
3 W's.
Pink. It's not red, but pink.
WWW, isn't that also 666?
Oh, word, man. Oh, man. There's probably layers here we're not even, getting to.
Yeah,
And I asked Gary about the guy, but he didn't know about him so much. He said the Balor character has one red eye and then 7 veils over the eye, and each time he removes one, the destruction in front of it will get more and more intense. So, and he was only slain by a sling and a stone into the eye, which then turned him to stone when it rolled back into his head, kind of like a pineal gland emphasis. And then all of his troops that were behind him got zapped and turned to stone too. And this was the spear of Lu was what was used to slay him. That's kind of interesting. And so now we're on to this really interesting thing here, which if you're in the Discord, this is in there. I will go ahead and actually
put it in the Utopia section, if you wouldn't mind.
What was the title of that? 3-8. Okay. Well, there's been references to 23andMe also in the puzzle, and I'd say that this probably loops back to that kind of stuff too. Anyway, let me drop this link for you guys. And this is an exclusive, I guess. I honestly can't tell you're going to have seen this anywhere else. So I am encouraging you to share this stuff, but use caution if you use your platforms, because you might get a strike for sharing something like this.
Well, I'm used to it. I've lost 7 Twitters and 3 Facebooks, and now possibly my YouTube. Who knows?
I know. I'm just trying to keep people, aware of the fact they're actively censoring the truth right now, and you're not going to find this. I mean, it's not like they're reporting on this. This is just we only know this because we were told. So again, this clue came out back in the day. So if it helps for you to think of this like a Utopia comic page, that's what basically they gave us, was a pieces of artwork, pieces of music. In the music there'll be hidden messages, hidden symbols, reversed speech, backmasking, files actually hidden in the file itself, pictures hidden in music. This black image actually, yes, it's got all that on it, but I can pretty much guarantee you that there's something hidden in the black too. So if you were to run like outguess, or maybe not outguess, it might even be OpenPuff, outguess, those types of programs. If you ran a diagnostic on this, because what they'll do is use an uncompressed image, uncompressed audio, uncompressed video, and then you can fit extra information into the empty spaces that are in each of the containers because that's why uncompressed anything takes up so much space, is because it's just using so many containers, but not all those containers are actually full of data. So then what you can do is you can go back through and seed like an image or a message or something like that into all of the separate containers, so that if somebody actually knew what to look for, they can pick out all the information out of those containers and get an entirely different, like another clue out of the clue you're looking at, yet there's one hidden in there we don't know about. See what I mean? So there's still some work to be done on this type of thing. So if you feel like, you're just now hopping on and like, it's too late. No, like we just had this realization like this week or last week that this even really related, because, I went back through the clues and we did discover that this is the CCR532. Oh, and of course, Delta. That was pointed out by one of your folks, that it looked like the tent. The Delta symbol is the tent.
Right.
It's actually one of the Hebrew letters too.
Right.
Deleth means gate. Associated with the susceptibility to SARS-CoV-2 infection and death, and epidemiological investigation. So this is dated 2020 November. So this isn't even, this is like basically a year old. So again, just to go to show you, like, that's why we didn't know what we had, because it wasn't until recently that any research came out for it. So I'm going to read this here. To the editor, the coronavirus disease, COVID-19, which has created the recent pandemic caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. Keep that in mind, folks. What's killing these people? Lung stuff. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, and has spread over to 227 countries globally. This virus has taken a heavy toll on human beings, and as of July 3rd, an estimated 11 million people were infected and 0.52 million have died. The infection and mortality rate in different countries are seemingly different, probably because of ethnicities and blood types. I've heard today from somebody that told me O blood type is the least susceptible.
Oh,
and
good.
Then
I'm O.
And A is the most susceptible, and I'm A.
Oh, no. Would you like to put some money into your funeral fund?
Well, but what's the question is,
You're not going to
why?
die from it. I'm just joking. We don't. Yeah.
What the question is, why?
Yeah. Why would it be? Why?
Alpha and omega, in a sense. Who knows? So the blood type with no antibodies is less susceptible. The blood type with A antibodies is most susceptible. So this might shed some light on this. So the infection, recently highlighted these folks highlighted the association of angiotensin converting enzyme 1, ACE1 genetic variant with susceptibility to SARS-CoV-2 infection and related mortality in some of the European countries. Thus, the role of biochemical receptors in inducing susceptibility to this infection and death cannot be ruled out. Chemokine receptor 5, CCR5, is an essential member of the G protein coupled receptor family abundantly present on the surface of monocytes. So basically, what I'm hearing here is what's on the cover of your cell is the antibody itself. So this might be the link to explain the A and O thing. Were you going to say something?
Oh, it's just so much about the blood types. I probably shouldn't, but I probably
Well,
shouldn't.
if I'm wrong about something, definitely correct.
I'm just, it just gets me thinking about the RH null and how there's no RH at all on there, and why would that even be a blood type when RH really shouldn't even be in our blood types at all. But anyway, I don't. It makes me wonder what, But they don't test. They don't study Rh null because only 60 people in the world have it, and I feel like it's the actual original, the bloodline, which is weird because then you would think the elites would want that to be the bloodline, but there's absolutely no antigens on it. There's none of any of this stuff where they don't have to worry. They make it sound scary, like, oh, if these people ever need blood, then there's only a few people to choose from. But at the same time, they don't have allergic reactions like we do. They don't have antibodies, their own bodies attacking their own bodies because they don't have an antibody on their blood to begin with. Anyway, it's kind of off topic, so that's probably why I don't need to.
So we're actually immunodeficient.
Right.
As we gain antibodies, then,
yeah.
is what it's essentially conveying.
I think so, because in our own body fights those things and it can kill us. That's why these blood transfusions are deadly, because if you don't get your exact blood type, it'll kill you.
So that's why AA is so susceptible, because of the CCR5 is coding for that certain type of protein, G protein. So G protein must be what you find in relation to A. I don't know much about this stuff, the blood type stuff, so I'm going to have to get into this and see how it relates.
What would be great is if we could get a hemologist, and I've tried to do this. I'm not joking. I've asked people, I'm like, hey, I've known as a PA, I've known doctors, I'm like, I need to find a hemologist, like, to help kind of break it down for us on some of this stuff, is because I think it would help our understanding. I don't think we need much. I don't think we'd need like a whole month of education on this. I think you could spend like an hour with a hemologist. They could explain a lot of these proteins and these antigens, especially for myself, who's already semi-trained in the field, to really get to the bottom of what the blood lines really mean in all of this. And I should get back to that. In fact, I'm glad we kind of talked about it, because that Rh null thing is really kind of a misnomer. It shouldn't be called Rh null. It should be called how your blood type should be, because the Rh seems to be introduced, whether supernaturally from fallen angels. And somebody asked that question when Gary Wayne was on. So what, are we all just fallen angel? Like, are we all created now from fallen angel bloodlines? And that answer might be yes, because we all have the Rh. And where did it come from?
Yeah, this is really strange. It does kind of seem like it just. He did mention how there was no record for it, and it did come out of nowhere. So it did imply that maybe angels had made it in.
And no
really,
animal has an Rh negative positive. There's no other creature on Earth that has that.
Yes, you got me thinking, dude. Well, I'm gonna have to. I need help to really get the most out of it, but so I'm gonna go ahead and try on my own to study it. But my concern is that I'll probably miss a lot of important things, or I wouldn't want to dare be accused of misinformation. But so again, I'm not trying to like go through this with a fine-tooth comb and pretend to be able to pick out everything. But the things I did want to pick out about this was that this here directly, I mean, this is how we found it. We had, because what it is, there are certain types of files called, I don't think I have it actually up right now. Yeah, I don't have the files prepared. But anyway, it was a zip file. It was called amessage.zip. And so they'd give us this drop. Within this, there was a message of hope, a message of truth, and a message of reason. A message of reason and a message of truth both contained genetic sequences. A message of hope had, it was a wave file. Who was the guy? No, I don't think it was Timothy Leary. It was like Alan Watts, I think. Or maybe it was Terrence McKenna. And to me, arguably, for all intents and purposes, it was just one of those dudes. And anyway, within this was this genetic sequence. And so we searched for it, and this is what we found. But this link didn't exist until November. So that's the kind of the weird thing, is that we didn't really know what to do with the information we had. So much like these folks in the Utopia comic world, here we are speculating at times, wondering if this rabbit hole's correct, et cetera, only to find that, after the fact that they had actually told us. So makes us pay attention to some of the other things they said. They were talking about the market crashing, angels releasing plagues, so on and so forth. So I can actually do a show sometime on that kind of thing. If people don't want to actually take the time to like go through all the content themselves, I could probably throw something together to just show, the flow and how it become relevant today. So by then I might have a better understanding of this stuff anyway. But let's just read this block right here, because this is where it becomes more important. The critical role of CCR5 has been elegantly described in a wide range of viral infections: human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, hepatitis C, hepatitis B, West Nile virus, tick-borne encephalitis. Oh, encephalitis is what the mosquito panel looked like it was emphasizing. CCR5 is known to be responsible for the induction of inflammation in a wide range of infectious diseases and recruit leukocytes toward inflammation sites. So it makes your body attack itself, which is what they were talking about doing in the lungs. Basically, people were drowning in their own stuffs or whatever, fluids. Differential surface expression of CCR5 has been linked with susceptibility resistance against viral diseases. CCR5 gene is located at the short arm of chromosome 3, a common 32BP deletion variant at the coding region leads to the creation of the premature stop codon and produce 215 amino acids length instead of a full length of 352 amino acids. CCR5 32 variant produces truncated protein and significantly diminished surface expression of the receptor. The CCR532 polymorphism has been reported worldwide. So worldwide gene, worldwide virus. I mean, these things are starting to come together. I'd say if we did a little bit of research, Gates has a patent for a coronavirus vaccine. I'd say if we did a little bit of research and compared this information to that, we might start to see some common things begin to form. I'm not going to bore you guys by reading all
I'm
this.
a little bit interested. Will you go back up just a second to where you were reading? Hold on. Yeah, up a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, thank you.
I mean, if you guys are interested, I'm all for it, because this is probably the most important thing we're talking about right now. But
a common
at the same
deletion
time,
variant at the coding region leads to creation of premature stop codon and produce 215. So it's stopping the production of the normal amino acids. So that sounds like a mutation.
Yeah, which is exactly what the inline editing of your DNA with the Moderna vaccine will essentially be doing.
So it's truncated protein and diminishes the expression of the receptor. Sounds really similar to like what glycosphage are doing to us. They're causing protein building block problems. But I'm just thinking out loud. I don't have a good connection to that yet. Interesting how the link has 333 in it, though. 333 frequency tab. Look at NCIBI, the link right below where you've highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of funny. Anyway. Yeah, that's something we need to dig into. Certainly not tonight, because it's bedtime.
I didn't point it out because it wasn't on the nose, but 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. So it's just shy of that, which kind of interesting, but it's not 216, so never mind. But that jumped out at me at first. But don't forget that, because of the Clinton emails, they were talking about Nimrod and this and that, and anytime we're dealing with influenza and stuff like this, we're possibly dealing with giant blood. In essence, I mean, they're not going to call it that, obviously. I mean, they are hiding the existence of giants from us as it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't find anything about it. But when you just demonstrated how you know a little bit about blood in general, that can kind of at least point you in the right direction of where to look sometimes. So that's why I think it's best to share our information, because none of us is as smart as all of us, and we can pick things out like that. And for that matter, here's another link. Third sequence, COVID-19, HIV-1 isolate.
Oh my, where do you find this stuff?
I'm telling you, dude, it's a blessing and a curse.
We're going to have to get... This guy that called himself a demon hunter is now swearing, so this poor guy feels... This is what happens to QAnon. He's a QAnon follower. So just so that YouTube and everyone else knows, we rebuke QAnon. So goodbye to this person. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so this right here is, let me see, engineered sequence by the Chinese Wuhan lab, the strongest in positions, the spike protein producing the amino acid in frame. Okay, so this is very relevant, but I don't understand the terminology enough to be able to interpret it for you guys, so I'm sorry. But I think it's kind of strange that we do see Wuhan in this.
I also don't understand that terminology. This is stuff that I wouldn't understand. But if given some time, we could break it down. And this is what the Discord is for, where we come together. I wish we'd come together a little bit more, like maybe a little bit more.
And the sequence continues here until reaching the point of the 12 bases insert to camouflage the virus.
Oh, the virus goes into hiding.
You gotta be kidding me. So as you can see,
yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
We were given some information that I think is very interesting, and I just don't know what to do with it right now, other than just share it with people and hope that we can learn more about it. But what I will do is I won't give you the other. I'll drop the other one in the Discord too. It's like a candida. It's like Hodgkin's candida something or other, and we need to figure out like how these things interrelate. They also gave us a couple of chemical compounds, which somebody helped me figure out what the actual chemical at least looks like, and we're going to try to figure out more about it here soon, because who knows? At this point, I don't have a clue what that could be meaning. It could be related to this.
They talk about the black goo having a fungal type of...
are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh my goodness. Well, whew.
The black goo has been compared to fungal entities.
So maybe eating sugar and stuff, that feeds candida.
Sure does.
Absolutely. I've heard some people kind of, how I'm not making fun of the people because I'm kind of one of them in a sense, but like the hippy dippy people that talk about your gut health and stuff.
Yeah. They're right. The left-wingers...
Your parasites are living in your gut.
If only the left-wingers that are crazy like that knew that we think a lot like them.
Yeah. So, those things live in you, and you have a lot of neural connections in your gut. So if your gut's totally taken over and overpopulated with these parasite-ridden foods like lobster and shrimp and pork and all that, I mean, you're bringing those entities into you, so then like collectively you have like a colony of creatures in you that can take over your nervous system in a sense, so I think it's very much worth the consideration. Not to mention in the Utopia, the synthetic meat is what they were putting the flu in. Yeah. So this big push to get off animals. Oh yeah. And there was a petting zoo that was going around the country, and they were using the test lab rabbits in the petting zoo to spread the virus around to all the children. So that was how they were getting it into them. And then they were serving all these kids infected meat at school too, apparently. So what quicker way to get it into every home in America than to infect all the kids, right?
And they did mention there was a time a while back where there was an unknown meat found in a children's school, and they said, oh, it's kangaroo, and it's like kangaroo meat. It was an American school. And I'm like, I don't think it was kangaroo meat. So, Hubo, I guess it's Hubo. I always call her Hubu. Hubo Jones says, did you all cover the 27 mummies opening on Halloween in Egypt? And I think we should have a Halloween special, Halloween Friday special next week, and maybe we can cover the mummies in Egypt and anything else Halloween-like, especially as related to jack-o'-lantern Nephilim and stuff like that. I think we should do a Halloween.
Well, I have to work at that theater next Friday. I have to show.
We don't have a show next Friday? Oh my gosh, it's the first I've heard.
Well, I didn't know that I was gonna. I mean, I didn't know that. But I have to show a movie. We're showing Goosebumps at 6, some type of Goosebumps movie, and then unfortunately, Rocky Horror Picture Show at 9. I really hate that movie.
Yeah.
But it was the choice of the sponsor, so I'm at least going to try and help people enjoy it, because I know that there's some type of props. And I don't know. There's some way to make it more fun, and my hatred toward it has kept me from becoming an expert on it. But I will. So if anybody has any tips for how to make it more enjoyable, let me know.
Okay.
But
well, I guess I'll be doing a Friday thing by myself next week. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that.
Unless you wait till like 11 or midnight, which I guess is suitable for Halloween, but otherwise I'll be going out after that and probably doing a fire and camping and stuff.
Oh, well, it's snowing here, so it's going to be 3 degrees below zero on Sunday, so I don't think we'll be camping anymore up here.
But yeah, so I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that sooner, but so yeah, I'll be doing a movie, but we could try to do another show or something. And mind you that on the
maybe we can do it Thursday or Saturday.
Yeah, we could. Well, I try to not do Saturdays.
Okay, Thursday.
But Thursday maybe, yeah. According to the Enoch calendar that's adjusted, which this helps to explain like why the feast days end up on unclean days and stuff like that, what it talks about in the Book of Jubilees, is according to that calendar, we just basically finished Feast of Trumpets,
right,
and the Feast of Atonement, or Day of Atonement rather, because you fast that day. It's not so much a feast, I don't think, but that is supposed to be coming up, and then Tabernacles will be finishing out the month, and the 8th day of Tabernacles will be Halloween, and it's the 7 days preceding Halloween that you're supposed to be camping in your sukkah, and you would be receiving the blessing, just like the normal calendar said that this was the last week of September, first week of October, which again was a full moon then too. So anyway, they kind of mirror one another because they're still following the same moon phases. But the Enoch calendar is suggesting that over the course of time, everything's a month behind. So it would make sense, because that scripture would then be correct when it's talking about the unclean days. And so that said, I mean, it gave me kind of an opportunity to get able to do that. But I just wanted to make the point of mentioning, like, that's just food for thought. Imagine what all is going on right now, and then yet at the same time, it's like the tabernacle of God is supposed to be receiving the Spirit right now, and like we probably got people doing all sorts of weird things, So just imagine like what kind of spiritual warfare is really going on right now.
Right.
Sorry to drone on and on, but I forgot I had one more video here.
Oh, hold
this
on
one's
then.
short.
Wait.
This is Janice.
Wait just a second. Okay, I'm ready.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh. Okay.
There we go. All right. I'm assuming this is Jessica Hyde.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
I have this, Jess, but I'd like to think I don't need it.
Why are you calling me Jess?
That's what Christos will do.
You're trying to get into my head.
No. Just trying to connect, that's all. And I know how alone you must feel. Your father put Janus in you, but before he did, he made an adjustment to it. Now we've taken Janus from the blood. It works perfectly. We're making it right now, hiding it in the Russian flu vaccine that everyone is so desperate for. But we cannot see his adjustment, and we can't release the vaccine until we know what the adjustment is. We know he told Christos, and we think Christos told you. So I would like you to tell me. Because there is another way, Jess. And our scientists say that if they can cut open your brain, they'll find it. I'm holding them off, Jess.
Why? Why don't you just cut me open?
I don't want you hurt. You are your father's daughter.
My father's daughter. He put this thing in me. I was nothing but a genetic container to him.
No. You're wrong. He loved you.
Kind of weird, eh? I mean, when you actually watch the American version, you know, you don't really get the backstory that they're providing in the British one. So I'm very much tempted to, you know, watch it just to get, I mean, how many of those little nuggets are scattered throughout, you know? Of course, anybody that studies certain topics knows what Janus is related to. So, you know, when we start to wonder, you know, well, that's how we get these clues, because people that know give them to you, I think. So that's just all I can really say about that right now.
That's all I've got to say about that. Sorry, that was lame.
Nah, it was a Forrest Gump reference.
Yeah, it was. Well, that's all I've got
yeah,
to say because we're 3 hours in.
Are you kidding me?
We are 3
Dude,
hours in.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that long.
Well,
I seriously
if
thought
I
it
was
like
upset with you and I thought this was a bad thing, I would have told you live. I wouldn't wait till later and be like, how dare you go 3 hours? I'd have been like, bro, gotta go.
Dude, well, whatever. Thanks to anybody that stuck around that whole time. I didn't try to like make it long.
Oh.
But yeah, thanks very much.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Jeffrey who said something really sweet because I didn't catch it. He said he was going to Spider-Man, and then somebody for Halloween somebody asked him where is MJ, and he said that Aaron lives too far away. Aww. Well, that's very sweet. But yeah,
oh, hey.
I'm not a redhead.
What's up, Kevin? Yeah, Mary Jane, the Gene of Isis.
Yeah, right. I don't fit the yeah. Anyway, I don't dress up for Halloween, and I don't do Halloween. We don't do Halloween anymore here. So, okay, well, and we also don't pray, essentially, like we did.
I've been working on that.
We're going to come up with a different way to praise.
Yeah, I think it's better to just testify, witness, praise the Lord for, you know, giving us insights. Thank him also for the blessings we have. That's just the direction I'm trying to go into. And then when I've been praying here lately, I've been singing the prayers more. So when I get a little more comfortable with that, I would be fine doing it that way, maybe a little bit. But until I can do it the way I want to. Yeah.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and leads me beside the still waters. That's harder to do when you're singing.
Well, I know, but that's how it really is supposed to be, you know, like it really is supposed to be sang. I mean, these were shepherds out with their lambs under the stars and playing their lyres and stuff. I mean, Psalms is really mostly that way, but
He restored my soul. and leads
But it
me
takes
to
on an
paths
entirely
of
different quality.
righteousness for his name's sake. It does. It's very different. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod, thy staff, they comfort me. Hey, I don't have to hit any kind of tune because I'm just singing.
That's what I've been doing. And music is a global process in the brain. So, when you combine prayer with something like
That's
that,
kind of fun. Yeah, this is a
you
fun
just,
new way to do it. See, I'm
yeah.
less afraid because I've been on doing goofy YouTube stuff for like 3 years, where sometimes I just get totally goofy and sometimes I'm really serious. But I'm like, I'll sing. But, Psalms 23 is one of the few I know by heart like that. I need to put more verses to memory.
Well, and some that might help then, because this is what kind of has got me in that direction. In Joshua, it talks about Jehovah being his salvation and his song. And we see in some other verses when they refer to, I think Isaiah talks about it too, where salvation is the song and so on and so forth. And then they're taught that's a song. The 144,000 are taught a song that only they will know. And of course they're being saved. So that's a salvational song as well. So, I mean, if we're going to be singing in the end, we may as well get some practice in now.
Absolutely.
And that's, again, why I like the feast days and stuff. I mean, what do you think we'd be doing in heaven? I mean, there's a tabernacle in heaven. They're going to be doing the feast days up there too, So, I just like to encourage people start singing praise and learning about the feast days.
And I want to give a shout out to Pia. Just so you know, we love realtors. There was apparently a comment I might have made or mistakenly made about realtors. When it comes to gold and silver, I think buying land is very important, and realty is very important. I just want to make that extremely clear. That's important. So with that, anything last thing you want to say, and then we'll say goodnight and I'll play a song.
I'd say that maybe Thursday or whatever, I'll drag out some of the clips or whatever, like some of the things I mentioned that I couldn't show a good picture of. I'll try to have a few of those. Won't talk about Utopia a lot, but just do that. But then I would like to discuss a little bit about Donnie Darko and those types of things. And there's a few other movies we can mention. Just to
start putting
finish out the...
I made a Donnie Darko channel on the server, so start throwing stuff in there.
Yeah, I noticed.
Okay.
And man, I had some big epiphanies about that today too, so I got some cool stuff to share.
Then that would be fun. So we'll plan for Thursday, unless something happens.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at my schedule, but I'm pretty sure we can pull it off.
If you can't, you'll let me know, I'm sure.
Friday I'm booked though, so.
Friday he's booked, guys. So tune in either Tuesday or Sunday, maybe. So we'll talk more about it, but other than that, I guess peace and love of the Lord and good night.
Many meows, folks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Blessings. Good night.
I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but you remain so good, and you never change. You love me still in the perfect way. You stay always so good, and you have pulled me out from the depths. You have saved me from certain death. You have shown yourself faithful to me over and over, Jesus. So let my life glorify you and Right here with you is where I want to be, 'cause you remain so good. Yes, you never change. You love me still in the perfect way. You stay always so good. You have pulled me out from the depths. You have saved me from certain